Hi everyone, welcome to Let's Set the Scene. I hope you're all doing super well. I am so excited for today's movie. This has been highly requested and I'm really looking forward to having a conversation with you all about this story in the comment section down below because I feel like there's going to be a lot of differing opinions about this story and just about the way things, unraveled. Today, we're going to be discussing the 2026 horror movie Obsession starring Inde Navarrette and Michael Johnston. Now, this is a movie that doesn't really rely on jump scares to kind of get your heart rate going and to really scare you. This movie hangs out more in the psychological territory with a sense of humor that's dark, but in the best way. And those are my favorite type of movies. Like, I love a good psychological thriller. I'm not the biggest fan of like Paranormal Activity and those type of demonic entity movies that just kind of rely on like ghosts and things like that. This psychological horror movie was absolutely amazing. I mean, there were moments in the theater where the entire room was cracking up and thinking that this was hilarious and also a little bit cringy. But then there were also moments where everyone was genuinely scared of what was to come next. So this was so much fun to watch in theater. Since this is an indie film, the cast is a lot less star-studded than what you'd usually see. And that's what I really love about it. It just makes the story more believable. You're not sitting there thinking like, oh, that's Rob Pattinson and I love him and he's an amazing actor, but like that's Edward. You know what I mean? Nowadays, I feel like we always see the same actors over and over again, which is absolutely fine because they're very talented. So I get it. This is their job and that's why they land these roles. But I don't know. It was just really fun to see Inde and Michael be the stars of this movie and just absolutely kill it. Obsession stars a guy named Baron Bailey, but everyone calls him Bear. He's got a huge crush on his longtime friend, Nikki Freeman, and one night he finally gets a chance to tell her how he feels, but he doesn't. Instead, Bear takes a shot in the dark, leaving it to fate, and wishes that Nikki would love him more than anyone in the world. Fortunately, it seems like his wish worked. It actually came true, but it's not exactly what he expected. Again, it's a very dark movie, but also a really fun and great watch, and the acting is just amazing. Inde especially blew me away, and I honestly think she's a big part of why this movie lands the way it does. Of course, Michael too, because Michael did an amazing job portraying Bear, and there were moments where I genuinely thought Michael was Bear and that Bear was like a real human being. So he just did absolutely amazing. Obsession is directed by Curry Barker, who is well known for his YouTube channel called That's a Bad Idea, which he created with his best friend Cooper Tomlinson, who actually has a role in this movie. So it's really cool how he created such an amazing movie and was able to include his friend for this. The budget for the movie was around $700,000 and it ended up grossing over $430 million, which is insane. It is such a well-crafted story, though not without a few flaws, which is exactly why you'll want to stick around till the end of the video, because that's where I get into all of my theories, my questions about the movie, and just like my little nitpicks about the story. I also want to put a trigger warning. There is a small discussion on essay towards the middle of the movie. So if that makes you uncomfortable, then you can skip ahead, to these minutes in the video. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Jackie. If you're new here, I love anything that has to do with horror movies, thriller movies, mystery movies, a plot twist. I love a good little whodunit. And I love discussing all of my favorite movies, shows, and books with you, the viewers. So if you guys would like to hang out with me and listen to me talk about all of my favorite plot twists, make sure to click the subscribe button down below. We're also going to be making a cocktail today. We're going to be making like a very spooky, like witchy cocktail, especially because this movie has to do with like a witchy store. So I feel like the cocktail makes sense for this. It is a mocktail though, not a cocktail. With that being said, let's jump right in and let's set the scene on Obsession. All right, let me introduce you to one of our main characters, Bear. Bear is a very unique character to describe because your opinion on him will vastly change as the movie progresses. At first, you kind of feel bad for Bear and you have some empathy towards him and you're kind of just like, ugh, like that sucks. Like his life kind of sucks. Then out of nowhere, you hate him and you wish him the worst. So he's an interesting character, and the best way that I could describe Bear is someone who is lonely, insecure, sad, and unmotivated. He is sitting in a booth at a diner, stumbling through his words as he struggles to tell the girl in front of him how he feels. You're the only person that I've ever... Sorry, is this weird? I don't like doing this. No, it's okay, the girl reassures him. Okay, well, I feel like I'm coming apart. I think about you all the time, Nikki, and I try not to. You're in every song I listen to. You're the only person who was nice to me when I moved here, and at first I thought maybe, Bear trails off, and the girl smiles from across the table, reassuring him. Well, I realized who you are, and after Nana passed, you were the only one to call, even when I didn't have anything to say and we just sat there. So I keep telling myself, don't tell her she's too good or maybe you'll lose her. Or maybe you should know that I would choose you over everything. Bear continues as the girl starts to tear up at his beautiful words. No, stop that. Okay, that's cringy, a friend named Ian interrupts. Oh my gosh, I knew it, Bear says. Yeah, that was way too much, Ian says, while sitting on a bar stool across from Bear's booth, watching Bear repeatedly apologize to the girl sitting across from him who he was doing the speech to. The girl reassures him that she thought his speech was sweet, but Ian insists Bear try this again, telling him that his words freaked him out, that Nikki would literally vomit if she heard him say that, and that he had no idea Bear was going to be so corny during his speech. So to summarize, right now, Bear is practicing confessing his feelings to a girl named Nikki, and he's practicing on this waitress who's acting as Nikki, and his best friend Ian is providing feedback. Ian tells him that he needs to be less sappy with Nikki, while the waitress suggests that maybe he should give her something nice when he confesses his love to her. Maybe give her flowers, a candy she likes. Just give her something as a nice gesture, to which Ian is like, okay, thank you. Basically dismissing the waitress with like a very curt, thank you, and telling her to beat it. Once the waitress realizes what he's hinting at, she gets up and leaves the booth. Bear apologizes for making her do this, but she's like, it's fine, don't worry about it. Like, it was fun and his, speech was sweet and she's not bothered by it. She goes back to work, but Bear is still just absolutely mortified. I mean, it was hard enough to be vulnerable and reenact his confession with a random waitress from the diner, but his best friend just made it worse by telling him that his speech was completely off and that it was very cringy. Bear throws his arms behind his head in embarrassment, begging to just leave the diner and get out of here. I mean, you can tell that Bear is a really shy person. Ian, happy that they're practicing because he now knows that Bear needs it, pushes back and just straight up asks Bear, have you ever actually flirted with Nikki? Bear just gives him a blank stare. Okay, you need to invite romance, Ian explains. Tease her, be playful with her, be mean to her. Bear is in disbelief. Be mean to her, he asks. I mean, playfully, yeah, Ian corrects him. And then he goes on to suggest that Bear call her Freaky Nikki, a nickname Bear reminds him that she's really sensitive about. So they've all been friends since high school, and when Nikki was in high school, for some reason, everyone called her Freaky Nikki. I don't know why they called her that, but this is a very sensitive nickname to Nikki, and she obviously does not like it when people bring it up. So the fact that Bear is like, you want me to confess my love to her by calling her a name that she doesn't like? It doesn't make sense. Ian thinks that she would be charmed if he called her this nickname, which is just so random. I mean, I understand the concept of negging, but these characters are in their mid-20s. So it's kind of a bit ridiculous and genuinely bad advice, but at least Bear isn't a blind follower. He clearly disagrees with being, mean to Nikki as a way of flirting with her. I personally didn't feel like Bear's approach, which is just being vulnerable, maybe a little bit sappy, is wrong. At best, this approach works on Nikki and she says that she loves him back. And at worst, it doesn't work and he gets to see if they're actually compatible or not. But Bear still confides in Ian, who's clearly a very good friend of both of them, enough to know, or at least think that he knows, that Nikki isn't the type of girl to like this kind of declaration of love. Ian tells him to just casually invite her out for drinks, to be cool, to drop the sensitivity, and to flirt with her. Bear reminds him that they always go out for drinks together anyways, but Nikki always ends up inviting Ian too, and his workaround so far has just been asking Ian and their friend group to skip trivia night so that he and Nikki can be alone for once. Ian tells him that he can't ask her out at trivia night because this is their friends group main outing. They all love trivia night, so he can't turn their weekly gathering into his 7-year late promposal. I do see where Ian is coming from though. I do think it is a bit deceiving to trick Nikki into a group trivia night that turns out into a surprise one-on-one date where your guy friend hits on you. I think especially given how Bear feels about this, it would be more intentional and thoughtful to deliberately plan a time to tell Nikki privately, set up a cute little date, or at least a straight up phone call at a set time when she's free to discuss this. But Bear is stubborn, he insists on wanting to tell Nikki how he feels at their trivia night. Then when can I ask her? Bear says, clearly frustrated. Any other time is fine. All you have is time. If she means this much to you, and I know she does, just wait and do it at the right time. Okay, I'll wait and I'll do it at the right time, Bear agrees. That evening, Bear goes home and he finds his cat Sandy lying still on the floor. Sandy? Sandy? He yells out as he kneels to the floor next to her. Sandy? No, 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 he yells, because Sandy is dead. Next to her cat food is a bottle of prescription pills, opened and spilled out. How did you get into these? Bear whispers, heartbroken, before placing them back into the bathroom cabinet, which is completely stuffed with prescription bottles labeled for Barbara Bailey, Bear's Nana who passed away. So Bear still lives at his grandma's house, and it seems like his cat got into her old pills. I'm not sure how long it's been since his grandma passed away, but the state of this house is really bad. Everything in his house looks really gray, dull, dusty, and dirty. I honestly felt like I could smell his house through the screen. It just looked so incredibly musty. The home is really small with dark, green, yellowish walls and very older decor. There's warm lighting spread throughout the home, and it's filled with lamps. I'm sure his grandma's passing pushed him into a dark space, and by the state of the house, it looks like he hasn't been able to get back out of it. After cleaning up where he found Sandy and placing her in a trash bag, Bear sobs on his bed, mourning his cat. As the night continues, Bear doesn't move from that same spot. He continues lounging in his bed. But instead of crying over his dead cat, he is now stalking Nikki's Instagram. He's scrolling through all of her pictures when suddenly Nikki calls him. A huge smile spreads across Bear's face as he lets it ring for a few beats so he doesn't look too desperate, while he shoots up and sits on the edge of his bed, ready to answer. Honestly, at this point, I was starting to think that Bear's impression of his friendship with Nikki was very inflated. Like maybe they weren't actually as close as he thinks. He kind of sort of gave me the vibe that he might be like inexperienced with women and might be idealizing his friendship with Nikki because of his attraction to her. So when she not only called him, but FaceTimed him, I was like, okay, Bear is telling the truth. Like they actually do have a very close friendship because, I mean, a video call is so much more intimate than a text message. Hey, Bear answers. Wow, you were so lucky. Today was so busy, Nikki replies. Oh, yeah, I needed a good day off, Bear says. Oh, definitely. You work so hard, Nikki replies sarcastically, and Bear shyly laughs before saying he sure does. Now, we know that Bear took the day off because his cat died, so that's why he called in sick and doesn't feel like bringing this up to Nikki at this point. Maybe he doesn't want to make her feel bad for him. I'm not sure. So not only are Bear and Nikki close friends, but they're also co-workers. Nikki switches back to the purpose of her call, asking him what time he's going to show up for trivia night because she wants to make sure that she secures her table early. Bear turns on his bedside lamp as he stumbles through his response, hesitating before telling her that he actually won't be making it tonight. Nikki is disappointed, saying that they really need his brain to beat the other teams, but Bear hesitates again, clearly conflicted because he's not really feeling up to going to trivia night after his cat's death, but he's also very excited about seeing Nikki tonight. But in the end, he decides to tell her that he's not going because he needs to catch up on stuff at home, and that's it. However, Nikki isn't taking no for an answer. She tries to convince him some more, telling him that she was actually planning on telling him something tonight. Bear, with his curiosity piqued, asks her what. I mean, should I just tell you now? Nikki says. Yeah, Bear responds more eagerly. Nikki tells him that she's putting her 2 weeks in at work. Really? He asks, but you can sort of see his disappointment on his face. Maybe he was expecting her to tell him that she likes him. I mean, if I were him, it would be the only thing on my mind while on a call with my crush. How come you're quitting? He asks. And Nikki sounds a bit nervous while explaining it to him. I don't know, but I mean, yeah, we're kind of running out of time, Bear, so you might want to skip that stuff that you're working on and come tonight, she says. And it's clear that she wants him to come to trivia night tonight so that they can have, I guess, one final hangout since she's putting in her 2 weeks and they won't be seeing each other all the time at work anymore. I'm sure they'll still see each other outside of work and at trivia nights, but there's a difference between like going to work every single day with someone and having them be your coworker and then also be your friend outside of work to then just seeing your friend every once in a while at trivia night or at a random outing. So I think that's what Nikki meant when she said that they're, quote, running out of time since they won't be coworkers for much longer. You're right. Tonight's the night, he says with confidence, but suddenly Nikki lets out a frustrated yell. Shit, goddammit, she says. Are you okay? No, I just dropped my crystal necklace down the drain. Ugh, she says. After the call, Bear stops by a crystal shop on his way to trivia night. Now, this shop is full of books on witchcraft, candles, there's incense all over the place. You know, it's very witchy vibes. He's greeted by a sort of like hippie, ultra Gen Z store clerk having a conversation through her AirPods. She's counting out cash, telling him that she's closing soon, so to let her know if he needs anything before going right back to the phone call. Bear interrupts her, telling her that he does need her help finding the crystal section. So she walks him over to all of the crystals, and Bear asks if any of these crystals can basically just help with good vibes and, you know, just help with like positivity, because he wants to gift one of these to Nikki. The worker tells him about citrine, which is sunshine in a rock, and as Bear thinks it over, he looks around the store and a lit up display along a bookshelf on the wall catches his eye. It's a lonely shelf with a stack of cardboard boxes. The sign reads, "One Wish Willow," with a row full of them, each about the size of like a toothpaste box, featuring a design reminiscent of a classic 1950s toy package. Bear picks it up and he reads it. "Amaze your friends, you only get one wish." Bear decides to get it, taking it to the clerk to check out. "So you didn't want a crystal?" she says. "No, I like this," Bear responds as he hands her the One Wish Willow. "Yeah, well, they've been pretty popular since we put them out, you know? I mean, everybody wants a wish," the clerk says. "Well, the wish isn't for me," Bear explains, since again, he's buying this for Nikki. Okay, just don't come back complaining," she says, rolling her eyes. Bear chuckles as he asks, "Do people complain about this or what?" "Well, they're kind of like collectibles, so some people don't open them, but the people who do, you know, come back and complain," she says. Bear takes a beat, shaking his head, kind of confused as to what she's saying. Do people complain because it's a scam or what? He says through a chuckle. "Hey man, we're not scammers, okay?" No, I don't mean that you're a scammer, but just like, why do people complain about these? Because they're mad it doesn't work? He asks. "Yeah, or whatever," she replies, annoyed at this conversation. "Or does it work and it like ruins our lives?" Bear laughs, obviously thinking that this is just a gimmick and that anyone who would come back to complain that their wish didn't come true was sort of an idiot. "Yeah, or they die, or they wish they were dead," she plays along. Bear laughs before telling her that she's good at her job and, you know, got in his head, but it was kind of like a weird interaction. The clerk is like defending the product, but also sounding way too serious and ominous, though obviously she must know that he doesn't believe her. But Bear doesn't know what to believe. Like, does this actually work? Do people come back complaining because it does work? Or do people come back complaining because it did work and it completely shattered their lives? All right, before we get into the trivia night, let's start making our cocktail, because I saw this on Pinterest and I was like, this is perfect for this video because I feel like it's very witchy and I love the purple vibe, and it's also a mocktail, so this is perfect to make if you're not really into like alcohol and stuff like that. I'm gonna start by putting some blueberries at the bottom of my cup, and we're just gonna like muddle this. So I only put like a handful. I put like, I don't even know, that's probably like 20. I am so excited for this drink. I love a good little mocktail. All right, I'm not a bartender, but I feel like this is perfectly muddled, right? Now we're just gonna add some ice. Ooh, this ice, super melted. And then you can use like the black raspberry LaCroix if you want, or you can use just like any sparkling water that's like raspberry or blackberry flavored. I'm gonna use this one. I mean, I never really drink this. I'm usually like a LaCroix girly, but I don't know, this one I like the color of it. We're just gonna pour this into our drink. Ooh, I'm already loving the color. All right, next I got this Skinny Mixes Mermaid Blue Syrup. I don't know, I've never tried this brand before, but it had good reviews and we needed a blue color. So we're gonna put this right on top. I'm gonna add like a tablespoon of this blue syrup. Hopefully it's not like too overpowering, like, you know what I mean? And then we're just gonna layer it on top, and if we need more, we'll just add more. Okay, yeah, we need more. Oh, there we go. Oh my God, it looks so pretty. The camera isn't capturing it, but I swear like this whole top part was blue, but like I think the sparkling drink is way too powerful that it's not letting the blue shine through. But regardless, we're gonna add our rosemary sprig right on top of it. And then the garnish is gonna be a blood orange. It was supposed to be a dehydrated one, but I'm like, where am I supposed to get that from? Here is our cute little mocktail. I love the purple. It looks so good with like the blueberries underneath muddled up. Let's taste it. Cheers. This is really good, especially with the blueberries at the bottom. It tastes really flavorful. I like the rosemary in it. I'm not the type of person who usually has like rosemary in her drinks, but I'm kind of vibing with it, and the blood orange tastes really sweet in there. So let me know if you guys end up making this little mocktail. I feel like if you want to add alcohol to it, I feel like vodka would be kind of the move for this, not tequila. I think vodka would taste good. Anyways, Bear takes the One Wish Willow with him to trivia night with his friends, and this is when we finally get to meet Nikki, and she is so cute. She's wearing a jean jacket with like a mini skirt, some thigh-high booties. I mean, it doesn't really look like she's wearing any makeup, and she kind of has this like cool girl next door vibe. Ian is there too, and Ian gives like very preppy, like frat bro type of vibe, you know what I mean? And they're also there with their other friend, Sarah, who is kind of the opposite of Nikki. Sarah is wearing a bit more heavier makeup. She has dark lipstick on, eyeliner, this gorgeous stack of necklaces layered over her chest. She's wearing a black kind of corset top. Nikki gives cool, casual girl, and Sarah also gives cool, but a little bit grungier and kind of sexier. This friend group just seems like really random, but again, they've all been friends since high school and they're still friends now. They all sit at the table talking about work because they all work together at Sarah's dad's music shop. So they're all debriefing about work while Bear tries to catch Ian's eye, signaling that he wants Ian to get Sarah and leave the table so that Nikki and him can have some alone time so that he can use this moment to like confess his love in the middle of trivia night. Ian is obviously shaking his head no, all the while we hear Sarah and Nikki sort of arguing. Sarah is telling Nikki that while she's at work, she should work less on her writing and more on at least pretending to do work since it is her dad's business, and she's tired of hearing her dad complain about her friends not doing their jobs. Nikki tells her like it's easy for her to say since she's already going into tattoo school, to which Sarah corrects her saying it's art school and I haven't gotten in yet. So, I don't know, Nikki and Sarah don't seem to be that good of friends. Like, yes, they're friendly with each other, and like maybe they were close friends in high school and they're trying to still keep that connection outside of high school, but there's just something there. Wait, I thought you got into Luther, Ian asked, turning his attention to Sarah. No, I said I want to go to Luther, she says, while Nikki goes on. Sorry, I didn't know you hadn't gotten in yet. Still, I still have a shot, Sarah says, sounding a bit annoyed. Good, Nikki reassures her, but Sarah melts a bit, apologizing. Sorry for going in on you. I just don't want you to get in trouble at work. I know, Nikki says, and the girls exchange I love yous, and everything is resolved again, but again, something about their friendship just seems a little bit off. Bear goes back to signaling to Ian to leave, and Nikki catches onto them. What the F are you guys doing? She asks through a big smile because she can tell that Ian and Bear are like acting weird. The boys get frazzled and Bear quickly chimes in with, oh, nothing, Ian's just messing with me. Nikki turns to Sarah and she starts like mimicking the boys. She's like, oh my God, they're like making faces to each other, and the girls burst into laughter. Ian changes the topic because he wants the group to focus back on trivia night. Nikki gets up and's like, okay, don't worry, like we'll win trivia night. I'm gonna go order some shots. And Bear sees this as his chance to be alone with her. He tells her that he'll come with her, and Ian looks frustrated as he realizes that, again, Bear is going to use this opportunity to tell Nikki how he feels and probably ruin trivia night, especially if Nikki rejects him, like the friend group is done. At the bar, Nikki orders 4 shots of tequila and turns to Bear to ask if there's anything else that he would like to order. So he asks for a pina colada. Pina colada? Nikki asks, shocked by his order. Hey, don't make fun of me. Don't make fun of my drink, Bear replies. No, it's fine. I like a man that's in touch with his feminine side, Nikki says as she runs her hand down his arm before bursting into laughter. He asks what's wrong with ordering a pina colada, and she assures him that there's nothing wrong with it, that they'll get him his juice, she playfully teases. So it does seem like Nikki and Bear do have some chemistry, and it does seem like Ian's take on Nikki's vibe was correct because she is being playfully mean with Bear, and Bear kind of likes it. Nikki switches topics and she asks Bear what he was planning to do tonight to ditch trivia night, and Bear sort of scrambles saying that he cleaned, did his taxes, basically did nothing. He's clearly not willing to mention his dead cat right now, but after a beat, he decides that this is a moment to go all in and confess his feelings for her. So I was thinking, he starts to say until he's interrupted by the bartender asking for a credit card. The bartender is looking a bit past Nikki, and Bear suggests using his card, but she takes out her card and she gives it to the bartender, taking on the tab herself. Even though Bear wanted to pay, saying he's got it, she clearly wants to do something nice for him and just tells him he has to be quicker than that. Bear thanks her for paying for the drinks and works himself back up to what he was saying. Anyway, so I went to this store, he says, likely about to give her the One Wish Willow that he bought earlier until they're interrupted again by the bartender. Open or closed? He asks about the tab. Oh, open, babe, Nikki confirms before turning back to Bear to tell him to go on with his story. Bear is clearly nervous about what he's about to say, and Nikki seems to be the complete opposite. Nikki just seems so warm and friendly, and she's like comfortable enough to give strangers cute little nicknames and call the bartender babe. Like, I don't know, they just seem really different. Like, they just don't seem like they would mesh well together, but also opposites do attract after all, so maybe they will, work out. Anyways, I was just trying to say that you said you dropped your necklace? Bear continues, when suddenly Ian interrupts them, telling them Sarah just told him that her dad, their boss, keeps a gun in their safe. Nikki is like, wait, what? He keeps a gun at work? Like, he should have told us about that. I know, Ian says. But then Nikki refocuses her attention back on Bear. Oh my God, Bear, I'm so sorry. You were saying something. Ian turns to Bear too, also wondering what he was saying to Nikki, even though, he already knows the answer to that. Ian is just determined to stop Bear from confessing during this trivia night. He's more worried about trivia night than Bear, revealing his true feelings to the girl he loves. And he refuses to leave them alone. Since they can't get a moment alone, Bear tells Nikki that he'll just tell her later. Sarah walks over to the group, telling them she didn't realize they were all taking a field trip to the bar, and she's slightly annoyed that her friend stranded her at the table alone. But it's fine because the bartender hands them their shots and they all raise their glasses and decide what to cheer to. Bear chimes in a bit shyly and says, to Sandy. And before the group can cheer to his cat, they are again interrupted, this time by the host of Trivia Night calling the game to start. They all quickly down their shots and Ian and Nikki rush to the table to get ready for the game, but not Sarah. She hangs back and she follows up with Bear. Why cheers to Sandy? Bear takes a deep breath, now alone with Sarah, and tells her that his cat Sandy died. What? Sarah asks, shocked. Yeah, Sandy died. Really? Bear, I'm so sorry, she says as she throws her arms around him to comfort him. Sarah seems really sweet and sensitive. We saw her get upset when Nikki called her art school tattoo school, and now she's the only one that realizes something is up with Bear since he made a toast to his cat Sandy. She's the only one really checking in on him, so it seems like her relationship with Bear is probably just a bit closer than it is with the rest of the group. At the end of trivia night, the group floods out of the bar into the parking lot in the back, where Ian suggests that they keep this party going, that they should go to a karaoke bar and just sing and just have the best night ever. Oh, no, please, I just want to go home, Nikki says, and Ian is shocked that she's saying no. Nikki explains that she's just really tired and that she wants to go home and sleep, but Ian insists, asking who's going to dance with him when he Slim Shady's a joint. Nikki just mimics him and rolls her eyes, meeting Bear's gaze, sort of to say ugh, this guy is so annoying, She insists that Sarah will join him for karaoke, but Ian just teases her, saying that Sarah sucks. Again, the dynamic of this friend group is really interesting because they're all really playful with each other and it doesn't seem like they really have anything in common. They're constantly teasing each other. They work together, they go to trivia nights together, so they obviously spend a lot of time with one another and are pretty close, but again, I just don't see how this friend group works out. Ian is super preppy and frat bro. Sarah looks like she just wants to talk about art and be a little bit more sensitive and in tune with her feelings. Bear is just kind of a hot mess, and Nikki just doesn't seem to fit in with anybody. After a bit of back and forth, Nikki asks Ian for a ride home. But that's when Bear leaps at the opportunity, telling her he can drive her. Annoyed, Ian calls him a piece of work, while Nikki, of course, thanks him for the ride. But Sarah, on the other hand, discourages him from leaving, saying no, Bear, you have to come to karaoke with us. But he just doubles down, saying no, that he's tired too. Now that they're sorted, Nikki abruptly asks, does anyone have cash? Sarah says she thinks she has a 20, and Nikki calls her an angel as she snatches it from her, running over to a homeless man that's sitting along the wall outside the bar. Bear stares off at her, clearly admiring her values and her kindness, while in the background, we hear Ian and Sarah joking that Nikki just bought that homeless guy's heroin. All right, Bear, are you ready? Nikki says as she comes back to the group. Bear hugs Sarah goodbye, daps up Ian as he tells him, all right, get your girl home safe. To which Nikki just says, ew, don't say it like that. She doesn't like that Ian just referred to her as Bear's girl. Ian makes a face to Bear of like, oops, that's not really a good sign. And Bear tries to hide his disappointment, but like, yeah, it's not a good sign that she just said ill when being referred to as Bear's girl. Like, Bear is using this ride home as a chance to tell Nikki that he loves her and wants to date her, but yet she just said ill to the idea of them being like together. It's crazy, but the group parts ways and Bear starts driving Nikki home. She apologizes to Bear about his dead cat. I mean, clearly he told the group during trivia night after confiding in Sarah, or maybe Sarah told the group. Regardless, Bear says that it's okay. Well, obviously not okay, but that he's still sort of processing it and his cat's death hasn't fully hit him yet. Nikki sweetly tells him that he can call her whenever it does hit him, and he tells her that he knows that. Here we get to see their friendship a bit more intimately. At the bar, Nikki was clearly friendly, maybe a bit more playful, at least compared to the sensitive vibe that Bear had, but now she's engaging with him in a more gentle tone. Nikki obviously does seem like a sensitive, sweet person, but she also just has like a bigger personality and has maybe more confidence than Bear does. After a bit of a pause, Bear brings up the subject of Nikki leaving work, sounding disappointed as he tells her that it's going to be weird not seeing her every single day. But she tells him that she's just not happy at work, and Bear insists that it's just a job, like she shouldn't take it that seriously. Nikki tells him like, yeah, I should, like, but I just want to write and I don't want to be stuck working at this music store. Like, I just want to work on my stories. Bear reminds her that she has been writing on the side while also working at the music store, so she can just keep doing both. But Nikki says no, that she needs a big life change and quitting her job is that change. She's been working on a story and she needs to feel love to bring that story to life. Love? Bear asks. So it's a romance story? No, it's not a romance. It's a love story, Nikki explains. Isn't that the same thing? Bear asks. And you can tell it's not the same thing for Nikki, so she kind of lets out a big sigh before changing the subject, telling Bear that he's the only person she can really talk about these things with. Bear smiles to himself, assuring her that he feels the same way, and this is probably what gives him the boost of confidence he needs to bring back up the present that he got her at the crystal shop. He tells her that he got her something, but Nikki's mood shifts back to playful, though apprehensive too. Ew, no, why does that make me nervous? Nikki says. I mean, yeah, that's a little bit awkward to say, and it's kind of rude to say that about someone getting you a gift. But at this point, it does seem again like Ian had a point about Nikki, about not being really sensitive and sappy. So the idea of Bear giving her a gift makes her feel awkward because she's like, ew, like why? That's an odd reaction, Bear mumbles towards the end of his sentence, because why is she so nervous about a gift? As they pull up to Nikki's house, she says to Bear, you know, Sarah was asking about you all day today. How do you feel about that? Are you asking me if I have feelings for Sarah? Bear asks, sounding genuinely confused. But Nikki playfully follows up on that question, asking, yeah, if he likes Sarah. Bear just replies that he likes Sarah as a friend. Again, sort of wondering why Nikki is asking. And obviously to us, he might be wondering, like, is she trying to set me up with Sarah or trying to see if he's available for Sarah? Like, it's kind of weird because Bear's like, wait, I like you and you're asking me if I want to date Sarah? Like, this is not good. Nikki actually seems relieved though when Bear says that he only likes Sarah as a friend. God, I figured. She's so obvious, she says about Sarah. Now at this point, I'm like, Nikki is kind of giving off like mean girl vibes, like sort of ridiculing her friend Sarah for having a crush on Bear. But at the same time, to me, it makes it clear that Nikki either isn't much of a girl's girl or specifically isn't getting along too well with Sarah at this point because Sarah has feelings for Bear too. Bear just laughs along, agreeing like, yeah, she's so obvious. Yeah, when I have a crush on a guy, nobody knows, Nikki adds. Which again, I feel like it's a little bit pick-me. I'm like, is that a dig at Sarah? I don't know, but it feels like a little bit of a dig. It also feels kind of like a flirty comment. You know, she's making it clear to Bear that it's totally possible she might like him if he doesn't already suspect it. All right, good night, Nikki says after dropping her hint. And as she closes the car door behind her, Bear goes, wait, Nikki. She opens the door back up, squatting down next to the car to meet his eye level while staying outside. I was gonna ask you, I lost my train of thought, he says. Okay, good night, Nikki says, chuckling slightly as she goes to close the car door, maybe seeming a bit annoyed that Bear didn't actually have anything to say. He swings his body over to the passenger door to roll down the window, hollering out of it, asking Nikki, hey, do you remember in Mr. Lando's class when I forgot my mouthpiece and he was in a really pissy mood that day and you told me that you had an extra one? he says. Nikki turns back to the car, squatting again, holding onto the window, listening to Bear. And then you gave me yours, but like, Bear says, but Nikki interrupts him because she's kind of annoyed at this point. Like, she's just trying to go home and Bear's just like talking about a random high school story. Bear, Lando liked me, okay? You were on thin ice, she says as she turns around to finally walk up to her front door and put this night to bed. Good night, she says as she goes inside. Bear looks disappointed, like she's not having a lot of patience with him at this point, and he's trying to kind of go a roundabout way to talk about his feelings. Like he's reminiscing about a kind thing that she did for him in high school, and she's like casually downplaying it, obviously finding the conversation slightly corny, more than anything unnecessary, since she repeatedly headed to her front door throughout it and just is trying to go home. All right, good night, freaky Nikki, Bear hesitantly hollers back. Nikki immediately stops in her tracks and turns around. Ew, don't call me that. I know, I was kidding, Bear says. You know I don't like that, Nikki says, upset, walking back to the car and going up against the passenger door back to his eye line. Sorry, Bear mutters. Nikki looks off to the side, like she's thinking to herself, here goes nothing, and she flatly asks him, do you like me? What? Bear says, acting dumb. Because if you do like me, now is the time to tell me, she says. Bear takes a pause, and instead of using this moment to finally confess his true feelings for Nikki, he chickens out and tells her he just thinks of her as a friend. Okay, she replies, sounding disappointed or maybe relieved. I'm not sure. She turns back around and she finally goes back into her house. This was just like such a crazy, awkward interaction because you just want to go through the screen and like shake Bear and be like, bro, like have some courage. Like just tell her how you feel. Like she's literally giving you this chance to say if you like her and you're just going to say, no, I just like you as a friend. Like, it's ridiculous. I think it seems like Nikki might actually like him, but he's not being confident or jumping on the opportunity to be direct and romantic with her. Every time Bear tried to get her attention tonight, she turned around and walked back to the car, eager to hear what he had to say, but he didn't say anything of value. Instead, he just stumbled over his words and stalled the conversation, basically wasting her time. Then, after he makes that stupid freaky Nikki comment, she decides to straight up ask him if he has feelings for her. I feel like she kind of sounded hopeful when she asked that question, and I don't know if it's because she likes him too and wants to finally get everything out in the open, or if she sounds hopeful that he'll finally confess his feelings so that she can politely turn him down and just put an end to his attraction for her. You know, maybe she's always had a gut feeling that he does have a crush on her but doesn't know how to bring it up and turn him down, so that's why she just straight up asked him now. Nikki just seems like a smart, fun, confident girl, and I'm sure if she did like Bear, she would want him to be upfront and be romantic and just tell her to her face that he likes her, not tell her through like a car window after he just called her Freaky Nikki, a nickname again that everybody knows she doesn't like. Now Bear is just stuck sitting in his car, beating himself up, scoffing at his own behavior. However, he suddenly remembers the one wish willow that he had gotten for Nikki. He takes this like branch out of a box and this little melody plays out of the branch. I'm going to be using the little pretzel stick as my branch today, but like this is so cute and I recommend you get a little pretzel throughout this movie and snack on it. But yeah, he takes out this little branch from the box, and in order for it to work, you need to snap the branch in half while stating your wish out loud. So feeling disappointed and frustrated in himself, he says, I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the effing world. And he snaps the branch in half. It's not like he thought this would actually work. I mean, he just made that wish out of frustration. So after a beat, he turns his car back on and gets ready to drive away. He quickly looks back though to Nikki's front porch, and that's when he sees her outline, fully backlit, standing at the top of the stairs, turned toward him. Oh, what the heck? Bear says, creeped out. I mean, he didn't even realize that Nikki had come back out, and the timing is eerie. This was actually one of my favorite shots in the movie. I mean, us not being able to fully see Nikki and only seeing her dark outline right after Bear made his wish was such an amazing shot and such a good little jump scare. Oh crap, he says to himself as Nikki starts to come back down the stairs to his car. So, you said you had something for me? She asks. Yeah, Bear says. Now, since he just used up the one wish willow that was meant for her, he lies and says that he left the gift at home. She just says, okay, sort of open-ended, and he replies telling her that he can bring it to her to work tomorrow. Oh, okay, Nikki says, visibly and audibly disappointed. Okay, good night, Bear says through a chuckle, clearly nervous since she's suddenly acting differently, trying to keep chatting with Bear when just minutes ago she seemed sort of annoyed with him. Maybe you want to come inside? I mean, I did just lose my cat, Bear, Nikki says. Wait, you lost your cat? Bear asks, confused because Nikki doesn't even own a cat and his cat is the one that just died. Oh, wait, I mean, you lost your cat. I'm sorry, she responds, shaking her head. I'm so sorry for your loss. Do you want to come inside? Or, she continues. And Bear is freaked out at this moment because Nikki is being weird. 2 seconds ago, she was mad at him over the freaky Nikki comment, but now she's inviting him inside her house to continue drinking. Bear, immediately paranoid, looks at the backseat where he tossed the snapped One Wish willow before turning back to Nikki. Nikki, are you okay? Are you okay? She mirrors. Am I okay because of my cat? Bear says. After a long beat, Nikki just goes, yeah, I'm fine, Bear says. Nikki insists that he can come inside her house so that they can have drinks and talk it through. Talk about my cat, Bear clarifies. The cat, yeah. I'm so sorry. Yeah, she says. Now the repeated yeah that Nikki states in that same tone is so eerie, and it makes Bear realize that she's totally off. She's literally like, yeah, come inside. Bear is like, what the heck is going on? And he tells Nikki that he is confused and he thinks that she's drunk. No, she loudly says, when suddenly Nikki's posture completely changes and she goes from like clinging to the car door to shooting her shoulders back, her face dropping into a shocked expression as she yells, wait, what the heck? As if Nikki doesn't know where she is or why she's back at Bear's car. But then she snaps out of it. I'm acting so weird. This is so weird, she says. We see Bear relax, like feeling validated because he's like, yeah, you are acting weird. But that was really weird of Nikki. It's like she kind of snapped out of it and then snapped back into her weirdness. Nikki and Bear just like laugh about it. But then Nikki goes back to a pleading tone. No, she says as she runs around the car to Bear's door, opens it, and reaches towards his seatbelt saying, Come on, trying to get him inside her house. What the F, Bear says. Nikki crosses her arms in kind of like a cutesy way, like a child who didn't get her way. I mean, it's strange seeing Nikki act like this, like her body language contradicts her personality completely. Nikki just pushes on and in a very flirty, but also cringy way, tells him she knows what he's trying to do. And then she runs back over to the other side of the car, laughing, and gets in on the passenger side. Bear just laughs at the situation because Nikki is acting so weird. She's acting strange and now she's flirting with him, getting close to him and teasing him. Nikki, no, why are you getting in my car? He says. Let's go to your place. You're honestly freaking me out, Bear says, so thrown off. I've never seen you act like this before. What the F is wrong with you? He continues. But Nikki's expression changes from being very flirty and teasing him to looking disappointed. I mean, she's not being received the way she wants to be, and you can see her sort of falter as she switches strategies. She tells Bear that she must be pretty drunk, and Bear agrees, telling her that they'll just talk tomorrow. But this devastates Nikki. She slowly lowers her head onto the dashboard. I mean, her entire posture and her entire demeanor has completely changed. Again, it's just so weird. She takes a deep breath, unsure of what to do next. I can't do that, she says. What? Bear trails off. I don't think I can be alone right now. My dad's dying, Nikki says. Bear takes a deep breath and Nikki starts to cry, saying she can't go inside her house, asking if they can just please go. I mean, she wants to go back to Bear's house like she's been saying all along. I'm eating my pretzel now, you guys, so don't mind my chewing. But Bear and Nikki walk through the front door of his home. And Nikki looks around, telling him, wow, it's bigger than your last place. Yeah, it was my grandma's and I got to keep it. Nikki continues exploring the home, and as I mentioned earlier, I mean, this home is kind of sad. Some of the wallpaper is literally peeling off, the decor and the furniture is super old and worn down, the house is cluttered. I mean, it just feels so claustrophobic. Nikki stands in the kitchen in the dark before telling Bear that the house smells like him. He's a bit worried by her comment because he's like, wait, is that a good thing? But Nikki's like, no, yeah, I like it. I like the smell and I like your house. Bear takes comfort in her response and later sets her up in the bedroom. Nikki is sitting in the middle of the bed as Bear asks her to let him know if she needs anything, but Nikki just apologizes for having been weird tonight. He tells her to take all the time that she needs, and again, if she needs anything, she can come and get him, and he says goodnight and turns to leave the room. Wait, Nikki says. Bear rushes back. Yeah? Can you sleep with me, please? Please? Bear hesitates. Nikki insists, saying she'll be in her head all night otherwise, and she pleads again for him to sleep with her. Bear agrees. I mean, you don't need to ask him twice to sleep with her. He's obviously trying to contain his excitement because he's about to have a sleepover with like the love of his life, and he's trying not to be too obvious about it, so he walks over to the bed as Nikki pulls her shirt off. This moment was crazy, and Nikki's not like totally topless. She's still wearing her bra, but Bear is like obviously freaking out. He turns around to give her some privacy, and then he walks over to the side of the bed to just sit on top of the blankets. At this point, Bear is still wearing jeans and his t-shirt, so he hasn't even changed into his PJs yet. Honestly, he's not sure what to do at this moment. Like, does he get under the covers to sleep with her? Does he lay on top of the blankets to give her more privacy? What does he do? Nikki scoots closer to him, gently resting her head on his shoulder, relieved, telling him that she really needed this. Bear is literally shaking as she does this because he can't grasp how this is truly happening. How the girl that he has been in love with for so long is not only at his house, sitting on his bed with just her bra on, but is sleeping over and cuddling up to him. He's freaking out inside and asks her why she needed this. Nikki sits up and she moves to the other side of the bed so that now she can face him. I'm really sorry about your cat, she says. Well, I think you got me beat on this one, he replies, and she's clearly going through something too with her dad's diagnosis. The two stare at each other in silence, but you can literally hear Bear's heart beating out of his chest. Nikki slowly leans in and she places her hand on his chest, sliding them up towards his neck. Wait, Bear says, clearly nervous about what's about to happen, but Nikki continues leaning in, and they kiss. At first, Bear's hands were placed tightly to his sides. I mean, he didn't know whether to touch her or what to do with his hands, but once they start making out, Bear goes all in. He moves his hands onto Nikki and she moves closer to him with her eyes closed and straddles him. The music in the scene was amazing, you guys. It is upbeat and somewhat light, so it makes the scene feel very sweet and innocent. Then, out of nowhere, Nikki opens her eyes and she screams, "What the fuck?" as she realizes what's happening. The light background music stops as she jumps back from the bed and jumps back from Bear and basically throws herself off the bed, scrambling in fear as she shouts, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" over and over again. This scene freaked me out when I watched it in theaters, and it freaked Bear out too. He screams, taken aback. What? He says. However, Nikki quickly composes herself. "Oh my god, I'm so sorry," she says. "You kissed me," Bear responds, still startled. I know. I thought I saw something," Nikki explains in a much more calm tone. 2 seconds ago, she jumped off of him and screamed like she feared for her life, but now she's acting very sweet and calm towards him. "What the frick was that?" Bear asks. I know, I'm sorry. No, Nikki, what the fuck was that?" Bear asks, again, determined to figure out what happened. I don't know. Can we sleep? I'm sorry," Nikki insists, but Bear tells her that she doesn't have to be sorry about anything, but like, what the heck? Like, he felt like he did something wrong, you know? "It was a panic attack," Nikki states, but Bear hesitates to believe her. Nikki reassures him that yes, it was a panic attack and that they should just drop it. Now, as a viewer, it's obvious to us that something is very wrong with Nikki, and obviously Bear is paranoid about it too. She's all of a sudden acting crazy about Bear, coming on to him, making out with him, taking off her shirt, but then she breaks out of it and goes back to her normal self, questioning why she's on top of him in the first place. There is something wrong with Nikki, and she starts to sob as she climbs back onto the bed. "I'm just so lost, she says while covering her face. Bear comforts her and she drifts to sleep. Later that night, we see Bear get up from the floor. I mean, he decided to go sleep on a bed of blankets on the floor because he's freaked out by Nikki and doesn't want to sleep in bed with her. It's the middle of his night and he goes over to his computer and he types out, "What is a one-wish willow?" He then hesitates and retypes, "Does one-wish willow actually work?" I mean, you kind of have to feel for Bear at this point. Like, he must be feeling so dumb even typing that out. Like, it's just a stick. There's no way the stick actually has magic and that it made Nikki fall in love with him and actually become obsessed with him. But you also can't blame him for looking this up, considering the one-wish willow actually worked, and that's why Nikki is acting so odd. He skims the results and clicks on the keywords, which are collectible item, novelty, Mandela effect. He ends up on a Reddit thread with a bunch of users saying that if you think these sticks are real, then you're basically an idiot because it's not real, it's just a toy. However, a few users reply saying that the sticks actually do work and that they swear by it. One of them even claims a one-wish willow made his mom beautiful after having been ugly her entire life, which is ridiculous. Bear goes through this entire thread and he's just like, I don't know what to believe. He ends up leaving the computer with honestly no real concrete answers. He turns back to go to his bedroom, but now Nikki is sitting upright with the bedside lamp illuminating her from behind, so we can only see her dark outline. What were you doing? She asks. Bear nervously tells her that he was just in the bathroom. I mean, obviously he's not going to tell her like, oh, I was just Googling if like this wish that I made on you like worked and if it was real. Like obviously he's not going to say that. Nikki asks for him to lay with her in bed since he was sleeping on the floor, but he refuses. But Nikki's like, no, please, please, please. Bear gives in and sleeps next to Nikki as she cuddles his chest. The next morning, Bear wakes up in his bed alone and spots Nikki's purse on the dresser, which means that she's still here. He walks over to his kitchen and sees a fully cooked breakfast on the table with a glass of orange juice. He's like, okay, interesting. And he starts to kind of sniff around, walking deeper into the kitchen where we can hear flies buzzing. And as he looks down on the kitchen floor, he sees his dead cat, Sandy, laid on top of a small rug with a candle and some flowers surrounding her, along with a note. Nikki walks into the kitchen. She sees Bear clearly shocked and disgusted by this and knows exactly what he's thinking. Oh no, you're supposed to like it. It's a memorial. It's messed up, Bear tells her. She disagrees, or at least tells him she doesn't know if it's necessarily messed up. But Bear insists, saying like, yes, like this is a messed up situation. And she asks him if that's a good thing. Why would that be a good thing? Bear asks, clearly upset. And he's valid for feeling this way because who on earth would do something like this? It's one thing to set up a picture of Sandy with flowers and a candle and kind of use that as a memorial for her, but to place Sandy's dead body on the kitchen floor as a nice gesture is insane. After this crazy moment, the two just go to work. As it's been mentioned multiple times, the four friends, Ian, Sarah, Nikki, and Bear, all work together at Sarah's dad's music store called Castle's Music. The store is somewhat tiny and run down. I mean, I have no idea how Sarah's dad employs 4 people because the store isn't that busy. They walk into the store together with their uniforms, which kind of remind me of a bowling uniform or of like an old cassette tape. I don't know, but the vibes in this music store are super vintage. Oh, Nikki, can you show me the plug in the keyboard that isn't working? Because I don't want to give some Karen an excuse today. Their boss Carter asks. Oh gosh, don't say Karen, Nikki says as she leads him to the keyboard. So it sounds like Nikki is back to normal. Bear is wearing a huge grin on his face as Ian rushes towards him, mouthing, "What happened last night?" The guys sneak off into the back room of the store to talk about everything. I mean, to talk about the elephant in the room, which is Nikki. Okay, so what the heck happened last night? Ian asks. You're not gonna believe me. I mean, the craziest effing thing happened last night, Bear says, somewhat bragging. Ian automatically assumes that he slept with her, but no, Bear clarifies, turning to look out the door frame to the front of the store, meeting eyes with Nikki, who is standing at the register just a few feet away from them. She has like a really serious look on her face, but then she offers Bear a smile. Bear turns back around to continue explaining the situation to Ian, and Ian asks if he's afraid Sarah will find out about this or something because why is he acting so nervous? But Bear tells him that something is off with Nikki. That she's going through something really difficult and really dark, and was acting super weird last night, and after Ian continues probing, Bear finally explains that Nikki's dad has cancer. Ian, pretty confused, asks, wait, really? He reminds Bear that her dad lives in Washington, and as far as they know, they don't really have a connection, like they don't really talk to each other, so why is she so upset about his health? Bear says that even though they aren't close, it still hurts her to know that her dad has cancer. Regardless of that, he thinks that there is just something else going on with Nikki and that she's just having some type of mental breakdown. Mind you, the entire time that they're having this conversation, Nikki is still standing at the register just a few feet away from them, staring at them. I'm not sure if she can hear their conversation from where she's standing or if she's just staring back at them for another reason. You know, maybe she knows that they're talking about her. Bear tells Ian that she was freaking out last night and then snapping back to being happy. Then she would start kissing him and then she would stop and start crying. Ian is just as confused by her behavior and he asks Bear how this even happened in the first place. Okay, so you told her how you feel about her and then she freaked out on you? he asks. Well, I didn't actually tell her, Bear confesses. Wait, what? You didn't tell her? Ian asks. Yeah, I didn't tell her. But you said she was kissing you, Ian asks, very confused. And I mean, from his perspective, Bear is the one that's crazy about Nikki. You know, he's the one that was planning to tell her his true feelings, but didn't, and somehow still ended up spending the night with Nikki, and still ended up having her all over him, kissing him, confiding in him, seeking comfort with him. It's just so random, and from what we know about Nikki, it's not really in line with her personality. Even Bear is admitting like, yeah, that is actually kind of strange. Like, why was she so like obsessed with me last night? I don't know what's going on, dude, but I think she needs serious help, he adds. And she was crying with you? Ian asks, suspicious. Yes, and then she would just snap back to normal. It was terrifying, psychotic. She wanted me to like cuddle her and sleep with her, Bear says. Well, did you? Because that'd be messed up if you did. No, Bear defends himself. He adds that he slept on the floor because he freaked out, but this is a lie because we know that Bear did end up sleeping in bed with Nikki. Ian thinks about this for a moment and suggests that maybe Nikki's back on Molly and that's why she's acting crazy. Bear thinks it over and agrees like, actually, yeah, that's possible. You know, maybe she was high last night and that explains all of her insane behavior. Ian says that he'll talk to her and see what he can find out. But before he does, Bear quickly asks, wait, is she still looking at us? Ian looks over Bear's shoulder and sees Nikki staring right at them with a big, creepy smile. Again, I don't know if she's staring at them because she knows that they're talking about her or if there's something more sinister behind her stare. Ian tells him like, yeah, she's still looking at us, but to relax, that he'll play it cool, he'll talk to Nikki and see what he can find out. Ian goes back to the main part of the store and pulls Nikki to the side. Bear slowly makes his way back onto the main floor too, and Nikki says, hey Bear, as she's mid-conversation with Ian. Ian is literally standing in front of her and speaking to her and having a conversation with her, but Nikki isn't even paying attention to him. She just is focused on Bear and just wants to say hi to Bear. After work, Ian, Sarah, Nikki, and Bear walk into the parking lot and head to their cars. Nikki makes a beeline for Bear's car, opening the passenger side door, and when Bear tells him like, Nikki, I don't know if I can take you home today. And he says this cautiously, clearly not trying to be rude, but thinking maybe, you know, she's been off and maybe they just could use the space. I know, I'm just grabbing my purse, Nikki says as she pulls it out of the car and skips towards Ian's car because she's getting a ride with him. Again, it seems like Nikki is back to, you know, acting like her usual cool, casual self again. She gets into Ian's car while Bear stands next to it, asking Ian, okay, so you're gonna take her home? Sounding a bit jealous. Honestly, I think he would have preferred that Nikki ask him for a ride, even if she has been freaking him out. Yeah, I'm just gonna take her. Trust me, bro, Ian says as he gets into the car. Later at night, Bear is at home on his computer on the phone with Ian, searching up the short-term side effects of Molly. They're talking about what was going on with Nikki yesterday, and Ian tells him that she's cool, that she didn't seem off to him during their ride home, but Bear insists that she was staring at him the entire time that they were at work, which of course is so freaking weird. Ian says she was probably looking at both of them because it was obvious that they were talking behind her back about what happened last night. I don't know, maybe I should just call her, Bear says. No, don't do that, Ian suggests, and during the conversation, we see a figure walk across Bear's living room window towards his front door. And then we hear a knock. Hold on, Bear tells Ian and hangs up the phone. Hey Bear, Nikki says as he opens the door. Nikki is standing there in the dark, wearing a beautiful red dress completely in the shadows, and we can barely see her face. Nikki, what's up? He says. I had to shower and I didn't know what to wear, Nikki answers, honestly making no sense, and Bear is so confused as to what she's doing at his house. What do you mean? He asks. Nikki just changes topics completely and apologizes about her behavior last night. Ian told her that he was freaked out by her, and she explains that she was on Molly. Bear relaxes a bit, leaning on the door frame, clearly happy and feeling like this one wish Willow paranoia has been resolved, but also feeling maybe a little bit disappointed that her attraction to him last night was sort of a one-off thing. She adds that she was just really high and also really drunk. That's okay. Do you remember stuff? Bear asks, wondering if she even remembers their kiss. Some of it. So if I was weird, that's why. And my dad made me a mess. And so I did things I probably wouldn't have done otherwise. And I'm not saying you took advantage of me. Nikki, I didn't know you were on drugs, Bear defends himself. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that, Nikki clarifies. Again, all the while standing in complete darkness with like a tiny flicker of light illuminating her eyes. The lighting and the darkness in this movie is so beautiful and so eerie. I'm obsessed with this specific scene. You're not saying what? Bear asks, very confused. You took advantage of me, she clarifies, sounding firm, which is a really weird vibe. I really can't tell like what Nikki's motives are right now. Bear says that he doesn't think he took advantage of Nikki, and Nikki agrees. She says that she really likes what they have and that the reason she came over is to have an honest conversation with him about some things. She sounds really nervous and she's like carefully thinking about her words. So she no longer sounds like the confident and firm Nikki that we met at the start of the movie. In fact, she's kind of starting to sound like Bear. You know, with all of her hesitation and with the way that she's dancing around her point. Finally, she gets to her point, but this time she doesn't sound nervous or shy at all. She turns to the side and in a very cute and flirty way, she says, I know you like me, Bear. Now, the way she says this is so odd because now she's flirting with him, but also exhibiting some of that strange behavior that we saw last night. You know, where her vibe is kind of all over the place and she's just really creepy. She can be having one conversation, but her emotions and her tone are just fluctuating throughout and it's really unsettling. This is what I was talking about initially, you know, that the acting in this movie is just so good. It's like so exceptional because it's what really sells the confusion and the paranoia that Bear has been feeling. That something is just not quite right. I mean, that this is not the Nikki that we've come to know. Well, no, why? Do you like me? Bear nervously asks. His behavior in the scene again is so frustrating. I'm like, bro, like his facial expressions are all weird and he's like literally sweating through his clothes. This girl that he's been practicing confessing his love to, a girl that he's been stalking on Instagram, working himself up for, and she's basically giving him an in, and he is still hesitating to take the leap. If she wasn't so persistent, you would think that she would just give up on his disinterested act and go back to being friends. Instead, she just replies, would it freak you out if I said yes? Bear's breathing starts to quicken as he smiles nervously, containing his excitement, asking her how long she's felt that way about him. I don't know, it just sort of happened over time. It started last Christmas, and last night I saw what we could be, she explains. Bear is in shock as he hears her tell him this. You know, you just see him realize what's happening, adjusting his posture, relaxing his face a bit, as Nikki reciprocates what he's been dreaming of. Finally, she asks him flat out, do you have feelings for me? He takes a deep breath for a moment before finally telling her that he does. I mean, literally this guy, I was like, if he does not confess his feelings for her right now, like I'm done. Because how many chances does he need before he finally says what he needs to say? After confessing his love for her, the two jump into bed together and they have sex. For the next couple of days, Bear and Nikki are inseparable. They're having breakfast together, laughing, making out at work, hooking up in bed, watching movies, cooking, reading, playing the guitar. Nikki even shares this weird cringy meme with Bear that says, I want to wear your skin as a sweater. I mean, I guess it's kind of cute. I don't know, but like Bear loves this. You know who doesn't love this new relationship though? Everyone else in their lives. Yeah, Ian cringes as he watches them make out at work. Even their boss, Sarah's dad, Carter, is really confused by this behavior because out of nowhere, these two have become absolutely obsessed with each other. Bear teaches Nikki how to play the piano at work, and Sarah rolls her eyes at them because she's not happy about this new relationship. She's probably jealous since she herself has a crush on Bear, and her friend Nikki knew about this crush, but now is all over him right in front of her face. Everyone is just so confused and somewhat annoyed by this new relationship, but Nikki and Bear couldn't be happier, especially Nikki. She is completely mesmerized by Bear. And even while they're watching a movie on his couch, she can't keep her eyes off of him. He has to literally remind her to turn her head to pay attention to the movie because she won't stop staring at him. They're definitely in the honeymoon stage of this relationship. The two eventually go out to dinner at an Italian restaurant and they're sitting across from each other, reminiscing about high school. Nikki is wearing a gold necklace with the letter B on it, which I assume stands for Bear. Bear asks about Nikki's dad, but she tells him that she doesn't really want to talk about it. And luckily, they're interrupted anyways when Bear's phone starts to ring. It's Ian. Bear looks at it and he declines the call and sets the phone back down on his table. But Nikki notices this. Anyway, so what do you want to do? I mean, I've never really asked you, Nikki says, referring to his future. Bear tells her it's okay that she's never asked because, he's been told that he's kind of a very private person. Really? You've been told that? By who? She asks. Well, by Ian and by you. You actually told me that once, Bear responds. I did? Nikki asks. Yeah, you called me a closed book. Well, I guess the good thing about a closed book is that I get to read it from the start, Nikki says, and they chuckle. Bear opens up and confesses that he wants to be a food critic, but Nikki is like, sir, you literally put ketchup on your steak, so how on earth do you ever expect to be a food critic? Bear laughs at this joke and explains how he pictures this dream life and this dream job, and it sounds like he's mostly interested in just getting free food at nice restaurants. Like, he doesn't really sound serious about being a food critic. He's like, I just want to go to nice places and get my meal for free. Now, their date is interrupted by another phone call from Ian, and Bear excuses himself to answer because he's like, okay, he called me twice in a row, like something must be wrong. He steps out of the booth towards the end of the restaurant. What is it, dude? I'm busy, he answers. Oh, busy doing Nikki? Ian replies. Bear ignores him, asking again, what do you want? Okay, so, Ian prepares himself, taking a big exhale. What is it? Bear asks impatiently. Okay, I'm not going to tell Sarah about this because I don't want to spread drama, but I looked into Nikki's dad having cancer and he's healthy as a baby. He's been to work like every single day. He doesn't have cancer. Bear turns back to look at Nikki still sitting at the booth and thinks for a moment. Wait, why would she lie about that, Ian? I don't know, for attention, I guess? I don't know. I called the hospital she told me about and didn't even know who I was talking about, he adds. Bear's face goes completely blank as he turns behind him to check on Nikki, who looks annoyed at waiting this long alone. Look, you know I always got your back on this stuff, but apparently Nikki and Sarah had a conversation about you that day that you called out of work, and, well, Nikki said that she just thought of you as her little brother, and she friend-zoned you. Meanwhile, throughout this conversation, we see that Nikki gets out of the booth and stands to the side of the table, trying to get a better view at Bear, whose back is turned to her with his arms crossed. Clearly concerned about what Ian just told him. Ian goes on to tell him that he knows it sucks to hear this, but he thinks he needs to know in case she has some weird messed up intention or something super weird is going on. Like, if the day that she became obsessed with him is the day that she told Sarah that she only sees Bear as a friend, and now she's lying about her dad having cancer, what is she trying to do here? Is she just trying to play with Bear, play with his feelings? Like, obviously Ian is concerned about this, but obviously us as the viewers, we know why she's acting this way. Because of the wish. Ian acknowledges that maybe Sarah is jealous and made all of this up, that maybe Nikki never even said she only views Bear as a brother, but even so, the lying about her dad having cancer and the sudden infatuation with Bear, it's just weird. It's like Nikki snapped into a different person. Bear instantly thinks back to the One Wish Willow. He bought it the day his cat died and he missed work, and that's when he wished for Nikki to love him more than anything in the world, and instantly she started acting weird. What if Ian is saying is true, that on the same day that she told Sarah she saw Bear as a brother, it's such a jump to a week later with them acting incredibly lovey-dovey, spending every moment together. Even their friends are seeing that she's acting weird, that she's acting like a completely different person. The Nikki that they all know has always been chill and cool and completely comfortable with Bear, so for her to now be head over heels for him and unable to act cool around their friends at work, it's just suspicious. And Bear knows it. He ends the call in the middle of Ian's concerned rant and walks nervously back to the table with Nikki, who cautiously asks him, everything okay? Nikki, do you... what? She asks. Never mind, Bear says, afraid to confront her head on. She shifts the vibe by telling him that she has something for him and hands him a rectangular velvet box. He opens it up and she tells him that it's a tiger eye, a type of gemstone. It's supposed to bring you confidence and willpower, so now you can be a food critic. She tells him with a smile. We know that Nikki wears crystals, and since Bear wanted to get her one the day he left with the One Wish Willow instead, it's actually a really nice gesture. It's her sharing something meaningful to her with him, and the fact that she chose the tiger's eye specifically symbolizes Nikki's very real read on Bear, and the fact that he's completely cowardly when it comes to talking about his feelings and being direct. He asks Nikki why she's giving it to him. Because, Bear, I love you so much, she says, with 5 so's in a row. I don't think I could live without you, she adds, turning what was a very sweet moment into a very intense and sappy declaration of love. Bear, hesitant and cautious, thinking of his wish, asks, "You love me more than anyone in the world?" Nikki shyly looks down, coy and anxious. "Yes, more than anyone," she chuckles. Bear realizes that his dream came true. And maybe it's a tiger's eye, but as he stares straight down at the table, he finally gets enough courage to just straight up ask Nikki, "Nikki, does your dad really have cancer?" Nikki's face freezes for a moment, her expression shifting from concern to upset, and she softly tells him, "No." Her expression turning into a threatening smile as she shakes her head, chuckling with tears in her eyes. "No, no, no, no." "What?" Bear exclaims, freaked out. Nikki gets up and raises her voice. "No, no, 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 no. Don't do that. I thought we were having a nice date. Why does it matter? I thought we were having a nice date." She screams in the middle of the restaurant, throwing this huge temper tantrum, like literally whining and stomping her foot. I mean, this is so embarrassing, and Bear pleads for her to just sit back down and just end the scene. We're having a good time," he says, trying to calm her down. Nikki sits back down, clearly upset with his question, and repeats herself, clear and angry. "Then why does it matter, Bear?" Bear thinks for a moment, shaking his head until he finally tells her, "It doesn't matter to me." You guys, I know you've probably seen memes about this scene, and her behavior in the scene is ridiculous, but this scene is also so eerie. Bear has been paranoid about this one wish Will-O-Wish this entire time, and now he's seeing just how much Nikki has changed after he made the wish. His new relationship is challenged by their friends Sarah and Ian, who again obviously think that this is a huge personality shift from the Nikki that they know, and to top it off, she's made up this huge lie about her dad, who she only just started caring about in order to get closer to Bear. When she tells him that she loves him, Bear knows that that's the final straw and is essentially asking her if she loves him more than anyone in the world so he can confirm whether his wish on that ridiculous toy came true. When he asks her if she lied about her dad, Nikki isn't frustrated because she was caught in her lie. I think she's frustrated about the assumption that this lie invalidates her feelings for him or makes them any less real. That's why she asks him, "Why does it matter if I lied? Like, I still love you." As a viewer, it's obvious that the movie has been telling us that Nikki's sudden change in personality and in behavior is due to the One Wish Willow, but for Bear, this isn't confirmed until right now. Like, we're essentially watching a possessed version of Nikki, and now Bear knows it. So what is he gonna do with this information? Is he gonna go ask for help to reverse the wish? Is he gonna maybe confide in Ian about this, about what's really going on? Maybe leave Nikki alone and just hope that the wish wears off? I mean, he knows that Nikki does not truly like him or love him, so the right thing to do would be to step away and figure out how to call off the wish. But no, Bear does not step away from Nikki. In fact, they go home and he takes advantage of her. This scene is really disturbing because Bear is on top of Nikki and he's acting a bit aggressive. You know, his face is buried into her neck as he performs, and Nikki's face is completely dull. She's moaning and encouraging him and pretending to be participating, but her face is telling a completely different story. It was honestly really hard to watch because you know that Bear knows this isn't really Nikki. This isn't really what she wants, but he doesn't seem to care. Once he's done, Nikki says, "Oh, that was amazing, baby." Obviously, she didn't even actually enjoy it. And Bear says, "Yeah," with a huge smile on his face. But then that smile starts to disappear as he realizes that none of this is real. Later that night, though, Bear wakes up and realizes that Nikki is not lying next to him. It's 3:45 in the morning, so she should be here in bed with him. "Nikki?" he calls out as he scans the room, but she doesn't respond back. After a moment, his eyes start to adjust, and he notices Nikki standing motionless in the corner of the room, completely covered in shadows. The silence is broken when she goes, "Go back to sleep." "Oh my gosh, Nikki, what are you doing over there?" Bear asks. This scene was so scary, you guys. Oh my gosh, like Nikki started to come forward from the corner, walking in such a creepy way, like tiptoeing to him with a creepy smile until she finally replies with a quick whisper, "Watching you sleep. You're so cute when you sleep." She's even wearing his sweater because it smells like him. And the way she like tiptoed over to him kind of reminded me of a cat. Like, I don't know. Bear asks her like what the heck she's doing and tells her to come back to bed, but she declines. "No," she says as she swiftly walks backwards, right back into the corner of the wall in such a freaky and unnatural way. I mean, she truly looks possessed at this point. "Nikki," Bear calls out, but she starts crying and whimpering. "I don't like my dreams," she says in a childlike voice. and then starts to sob loudly. I feel like you don't love me as much as I do. She cries like it's not mutual. No, I do love you. Please just come back to bed. Please, Bear pleads, scared and confused. She insists though that he should go back to sleep, and Bear, freaked out, lays back down on the bed and complies, trying to just make the moment go away. A few moments later though, he jolts back up to the sound of Nikki screaming, "Why don't you love me?" Bear looks around the room and she's no longer standing in the corner where she was just 2 seconds ago. He scans the room again, but he can't make her out until suddenly she runs across the room holding a vase full of flowers over her face, walking sideways to the side of the bed, holding them up, absolutely freaking him out. Bear looks like he's about to cry from fear, and he asks her repeatedly what she's doing. And finally, she sets him down saying, "For Sandy, okay?" And gently climbs into bed, curling up next to him, seeming completely sweet and gentle. Bear again freaks out, and he starts to slowly get out of bed, trying to get some distance between them, but he is stopped when Nikki screams at him, "Stay?" To which he plops back down, which, yes, is a bit scary, but honestly made me laugh because I'm like, yes, girl, like, boss him around. Like, this guy sucks. Tell him to stay. As morning comes though, Bear goes to get ready for work, and he's just like, what the heck happened last night? Like, that was so creepy. Like, she was watching me sleep. She was standing in the corner crying. She said she doesn't like her dreams. Then she yelled at me. Then she walked in with a vase of flowers. It's too much. Bear stops to look at himself in the mirror, and that's when he notices that his hair was cut from the front. He walks over to find Nikki on the couch reading, but he doesn't notice that Nikki is reading upside down. Yeah, the book is not even like upright, like she's literally reading words upside down, acting all casual. Through gritted teeth, he gives her a "good morning," and she gently greets him, "Good morning," as he sits down in front of her on the coffee table. Did you cut my hair?" he asks. "Yeah," Nikki replies innocently. He asks her not to do that, and Nikki's expression drops like a punished child. But as she looks down at her lap in disappointment, she's reminded of a lunchbox that she prepared for him. She grabs it and sweetly tells Bear, "I packed you a lunch." Bear's like, "Okay," and he asks if they can talk about last night instead. Nikki owns up to it and says that she's sorry, that she knows her behavior was really weird last night. And he tells her that not only was it weird, but it was terrifying. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I had a bad dream and I don't know," Nikki says. But then she just trails off as if she lost her train of thought. "You just what?" Bear asks. But instead of answering his question, she just sits up and gives him a huge, creepy, forced smile, asking, "How's this?" Bear just swallows and tells her it's not great. I think when Nikki is asking him, like, "How's this?" like, and she's practicing her smile, I think that's her just trying to be like, Bear loves me. I want him to love me back because I love him more than anything in the world. How can I be perfect for him, to keep him happy? So she's saying, like, "How's this smile? Like, is this what makes you happy?" And obviously Bear is like creeped out by this and tells her like, "No, it's not great." Nikki's face drops and she goes to kiss him instead, doing anything she can to distract him from her crazy behavior last night. And it works though, because Bear pulls away after a moment and tells her that he loves her. To which Nikki reminds him she loves him so much. But Bear interrupts her. He's like, okay, good, he tells her. "So will you promise me something? No more weird stuff, all right?" Bear pleads. "No more watching me while I sleep or moving weird, okay?" Nikki, seeming to better digest what he's saying, apologizes and promises not to be weird anymore. This is so disturbing at this point. Like, it's clear that this relationship has changed. I mean, Nikki is clearly not Nikki. Her body has been taken over by some entity created with the purpose of loving Bear. And he knows this, but he is still trying to reason with this entity, with this wish Nikki, and trying to make it work. There's no way Bear would have told the real Nikki he loves her this soon. I mean, he's just giving this wish Nikki what she wants to hear, to make sure that he can have a sustainable relationship with her despite the weird circumstances. Bear seems reassured by their conversation. That is until he turns to look at the front door. Yeah, the front door is completely covered in duct tape, basically trapping him in. Like, this girl literally took tape and taped up the entire door. Like, she didn't just tape up the doorknob or anything. No, she taped the entire door. "Oh God, I'm gonna miss you. I wish I was scheduled today," Nikki says from the back. No, enjoy your day off." Bear plays along, his face showing shock and fear. It's like wish Nikki has gone off the deep end. She probably feels emboldened to be as crazy about Bear as she feels now that they understand each other. Bear walks to the door, struggling to grab the knob, pulling it open. "If you're having trouble with the door, maybe you should just stay home," Nikki sweetly says. But no, Bear insists that he's got it, that he's not staying home, and he doesn't even ask her about the duct tape. Like, he doesn't confront her and isn't like, Nikki, why did you tape up the door? Like, he knows better than to confront her about this. Bear finally manages to untape the door and he leaves for work, closing the door behind him. Bye, Bear, Nikki says as she stands in the living room with a smile on her face. But this smile doesn't go away. It stays frozen in place even after Bear is already in the car and at work. She is still standing in that same spot, smiling, until moments later, we hear a trickle. Pee is literally running down her legs and onto the carpet. It's as if she has no autonomy over her body when Bear isn't there, like she's just stuck in that same spot waiting for him to come home. Meanwhile, Bear is miserable at work. He's sitting on a piano bench, just staring off into the distance. He slept terribly, and things with Nikki are getting weirder and weirder and more terrifying. You can hear Sarah's voice in the background talking as he reaches over to the lunchbox that she prepared for him. He pulls out a Polaroid picture that she took of him, and the angle of this picture is really weird. It looks like Nikki took this picture from like above him, like she was like freaking like in the ceiling or something. I don't know. It's like the weirdest picture ever. And with a Sharpie, she outlined his head with a heart and labeled below the picture, "You." He looks at it for a moment and then flips to a second picture that she included of Bear sleeping with her next to him, smiling creepily at the camera. This one, however, is labeled "Not me." At this point, I feel like the mask of this wish Nikki is slipping, and obviously she's a bit emotionally unstable, but maybe real Nikki is trying to send him a message, to let Bear know that this isn't really her, that the Nikki he is sleeping with and doing all this stuff with isn't actually her, and that she needs help. Bear looks at the note and then he starts to eat his sandwich as Sarah starts to ask him if he's going to come to Ian's tonight. I don't know. It's the first I've heard about this, Bear says. With everything going on between them and Ian feeling really skeptical about this new relationship, like they just haven't been that close this week. Sarah must know about some of it going on, but she sort of just replies with like a scoff. Bear asks what she's scoffing about, but she ignores him. "I heard about what you told Ian," he confronts her. "About what?" "About Nikki, about how she friend-zoned me." I don't know what Nikki has said in the past, but Sarah interrupts him saying, "We literally only talked about it once. I just think it's weird how the two of you are dating all of a sudden. Like super dating." "I don't know, Sarah. I can't explain it," Bear says, because, he also can't explain why they're suddenly super dating, even though he knows that it's because of the One Wish Willow. Sarah says that she doesn't care whatever game Nikki is playing, but she just doesn't want Bear to get hurt. It does seem like Bear is being preemptively defensive of his relationship, feeling like he has to explain to Sarah that Nikki does like him, but that doesn't really faze Sarah. She must be a bit disappointed. She and Nikki are supposedly good friends, and Nikki knew about Sarah's crush on Bear. And after telling her that she didn't like Bear and only saw him as a brother, but then is now all over him, is really confusing for Sarah, and that's why she's worried about Bear being the one to get hurt. Sarah is less concerned about Nikki's personality change, and she's more concerned about Bear. "Look, if Ian is going to spread my stuff, then you should know that Ian and..." Sarah says, but she's cut off by her dad, Carter. "Honey, we got another one," he says to her as he walks over to her with a letter in his hand. Sarah reaches for his hands to help her up, and they go to the other side of the store to open the letter. It's another letter of rejection for art school. And of course, this upsets Sarah because she keeps getting rejected. She walks back to Bear and sits down on the floor. "This is what I get for being such a effer in high school, huh?" she says. Bear, finally dropping his defensive guard about his relationship, gets down from the piano bench to sit next to Sarah on the floor. "Is that your last letter?" he asks. "No, I have one more acceptance letter left from Luther," she says as she slowly rests her head on his shoulder. Bear takes a second, but then lays his head on top of hers, consoling her. Bear makes her feel better, telling her that she can just give him a tattoo without school, and she laughs about that, but gets up and teases him. "Your lunch kind of smells weird," she says. Bear looks at his sandwich, and Sarah seizes the opportunity while he's distracted to take his Tupperware lid with Nikki's sticky note on it. "What the heck is that?" Sarah asks, referring to the pictures. "Oh, it's just an inside joke," Bear responds flatly. He takes out a sandwich that Nikki packed for him, and it has a sticky note on it that reads, "To my little food critic," with a heart in cursive. Bear continues eating his sandwich as Sarah reads the note. "My little food critic?" She mimics in a mocking tone and laughs. "Well, what does this mean? What's the verdict on cat?" Sarah asks, chuckling. Bear is confused as he keeps eating his sandwich. "Wait, what? What do you mean? What does Wait, what? Yeah, what does that mean? Sarah pulls the sticky note off the lid and shows him the back. And on the back of the sticky note, Nikki wrote, "What's the verdict? Cat." Bear freezes, his face completely horrified. He looks down at his sandwich and realizes that it has a weird, like orange and black colored meat inside of it with a super strange texture. And this is not ham, it's not turkey or chicken. No, Nikki made him a cat sandwich. Yeah, she fed him his own cat. Sarah does not realize this and she continues asking what the sticky note means while Bear begins to hyperventilate and then turns his head to the trash can and starts throwing up. Wait, what does this mean? Sarah asks, concerned seeing him throw up. And Bear simply says through gags, "It's an inside joke, it's an inside joke." I mean, this is crazy, you guys. I mean, he's not telling his friends what's going on. And I feel like that just shows his willingness and his desire to make this relationship work no matter what. His whole approach is clearly to preserve the public image of this relationship, staying a unified front and defending and everything. And it might be cute to defend your girlfriend if Nikki wasn't possessed by a crazy love wish. But he's literally here defending Nikki being like, "No, she really likes me," when it's like, bro, you know she doesn't actually freaking like you. Side note, the sandwich is really good. I had to have it as a prop for this video. My husband just made it for me. It's turkey, provolone cheese, avocado, spicy mayo, what else? Pickles. I'm like blanking. Pickles and banana peppers. So freaking good. Definitely no cat here. I recommend make yourself a sandwich while you watch this video. Anyways, at the end of his shift, Bear walks to his car and he is followed by Ian, who calls out to him, not as Bear, but as his real name, Baron, indicating the recent distance between them. You know how you only get called your real name when you're like in trouble? That's basically Bear. Ian asks for a ride home and Bear refuses, but Ian insists that they're neighbors, so he can give him a ride home. In the car ride, the obvious comes up. "So, are we gonna talk about you and Nikki?" Ian asks. "What about it?" Bear replies. Frustrated, Ian reminds him, "You came to me saying Nikki's having like some freaking crazy mental breakdown or something and that she needs help. And now you're acting like, oh no, we're fine. She loves me. We're perfect. Everything's good." "She was on drugs. Nikki is fine," Bear explains. Ian disagrees though and says that something is wrong with her. She's lying about her dad having cancer. She's sleeping over at Bear's house every single night. I mean, yeah, this is not her character. Bear completely deflects, telling him, "Oh, and by the way, I heard you're having a party tonight." "Don't change the subject," Ian says. "No, why didn't you invite us?" Bear goes on, clearly offended by this. Ian mocks Bear's description of them as an us and tells him that the fact of the matter is it doesn't look good. It looks like Nikki is going through something mentally and that Bear is taking advantage of that. That's why he didn't want to invite them to the party, because people have been gossiping behind their back saying that Bear is sus. Bear immediately becomes defensive, insisting that he is not taking advantage of Nikki and that she's the one obsessed with him. Still, Ian doesn't feel good about it. And as much as he's framing it as being about how this relationship looks, it obviously just doesn't sit right with Ian either. He adds that even their boss, Sarah's dad, Carter, has made comments about their relationship because everybody who knows them is just so confused about this sudden relationship. And again, it looks like Bear is taking advantage of Nikki. Ian drops the subject though and tells Bear that if he wants to come to his party tonight, then he has to come alone. Nikki cannot come because it's a boys' night, and he says he'll even text Sarah to make sure that she doesn't come either. He's giving Bear the opportunity to prove that this relationship is not toxic or codependent. Okay, that's fine, Bear says, but we know he's not fine with this. He's scared to tell Nikki that she can't come to this party and that she'll have to be alone for the night. After dropping Ian off, Bear pulls up to the house and just sits in his car for a bit, practicing his confrontation with Nikki, repeating to himself, "Nikki, you can't cook the cat. You can't cook the cat, okay?" Which is such a ridiculous sentence to say, but a necessary one for the two of them. "I'm gonna go hang out with Ian tonight," he keeps practicing. As he picks up his backpack and opens a door to leave, he hears the One Wish Willow melody play over its tiny speakers. He closes the door back up and unzips his bag to pull out the box. As he reads it over, he's trying to understand, like, how did this freaking toy end up being real? He notices that there's a customer service number on the back, and he chuckles to himself as he contemplates calling it. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, calling a customer service line for like a stupid wish, like, it just doesn't feel real. Regardless, he dials a number thinking it's not such a bad idea. I mean, at least if the wish is real, like he thinks it is, then maybe he can get help because clearly things are spiraling out of control. After a few rings, a tired sounding man answers the line. "Hello," he says. Hello, Bear replies awkwardly. "Hey, what's up?" the customer service rep says. Is this One Wish Willow? Bear asks. Yeah. Okay. I'm calling to see if there's a way I can alter a wish. You'd like to cancel your wish? The rep asks. No. It's okay to keep I just want to know if I can alter it, Bear says. I'm sorry, we don't really do that. If you have any questions about how the wish works, did you read the back of the box? They add. Is this even real? Bear asks. Yeah, it's real. No, I know that, but is her love real? Bear says. Just because you chose this for her doesn't make it any less real, the rep explains. Okay, then I would like to cancel, Bear finally says. You'd like to file a cancel request? Yes, a cancel request. Just cancel it. Well, we actually don't really do that. What do you mean you don't really do that? You were just making it sound like I could put in a request, Bear says. I was just guessing your intentions, man, the rep replies. And this part was so funny because I'm like, bro, what is going on? What the hell? Then what can I do then? Nothing really. So she's just going to be f***ed up forever? Yeah, as long as you live, the rep says. As long as I live? Bear asks. The rep says, yeah. When you die, the wish will go away. Bear's like, are you sure there's nothing I can do? And he's like, nope, as long as you live, it sounds to me like you have a moral obligation to be there for her. Bear thinks about this for a moment. Okay, but wait, she does this thing where she freaks out. What is that? Well, do you want to talk to her? The rep asks. Wait, what? Talk to who? Bear says, confused. And then suddenly they're screaming over the phone. Do you want to talk to her? The rep asks again. Who is that? Bear asks. Nikki. Do you want to speak to her? Bear, completely startled, hangs up the phone, realizing that real Nikki is stuck somewhere, tortured, and that the Nikki he's with has taken over the real Nikki and is essentially stealing Nikki out of her own body. This part was crazy because I'm also like, okay, how did the One Wish Willow service rep know about Nikki? How did he find Nikki? I'm so confused by the logistics of this wish and of the company that runs this, which we'll get into towards the end of the video. But I'm like, the fact that he could hear Nikki, the real Nikki, screaming and being tortured and just wanting to get out of Wish Nikki's hold is insane. And the fact that at first Bear didn't want to cancel his wish, he just wanted to alter it, is horrifying because deep down, this guy knows that Nikki does not truly love him and that the Nikki he's been sleeping with and is in a relationship with isn't the real her. So instead of immediately saying, yes, let's cancel the wish, I just wanted to go back to normal and just everything be fine, he says, actually, can we alter it? Because he isn't willing to let go of Nikki or the idea of her being in a relationship with him. It's horrifying because this guy is okay with altering the wish as long as it means 1, she's no longer crazy, and 2, she's still with him. I cannot with Bear. Finally, Bear gets the courage to go inside to confront Nikki about the party, and as soon as he turns on the light switch, he finds Nikki covered in her throw up, standing exactly where he left her, sweating and just covered in just disgusting everything. She soiled herself, she peed herself. It's horrible. Bear, she calls out in delight. He is completely shocked and scared at the sight of her like this and asks her what happened. What do you mean? She asks, confused. What happened to you? He sounds so confused and freaked out while it's basically just now dawning on Nikki that she is covered in throw up and in pee and in her own crap. I ate a bug, or I have a stomach bug, I think, Nikki says. Which what? What is she saying? Bear, completely useless, just tells her that he doesn't know what to do. Nikki tells him that she's been waiting for him to come home all day as if that's supposed to be super romantic. Reading Bear's reaction, she realizes that she's completely disgusting at this point and that she needs to shower and clean up. She apologizes for the mess and she slams the bathroom door behind her as she hops into the shower. Bear is just completely freaked out at this point. He's freaked out by the call with the One Wish Willow guy. He's freaked out about the cat sandwich that he ate earlier. And now he's freaked out about the mess that Nikki left on the carpet. It's all too much. Did you cook the cat? He asked through the bathroom door. This guy can't say it to her face. He has to ask her this. He has to confront her with a barrier between them. It's so annoying. His heart is pounding. He's breathing super fast. His voice is shaking as he asks her. Nikki, you can't do that, okay? I'm very upset about this. Okay, honey, Nikki answers calmly in an off tone. It sounds so dismissive the way she says this, and Bear has clearly noticed this before. When he's trying to get through to Nikki and he's trying to actually get a response from her that actually acknowledges his concerns, she's just like a robot sometimes. However, Bear moves past it and stumbles through, telling her that Ian invited him to a boys' night tonight. The shower water immediately stops. Okay, Nikki says. So I think I'm just gonna go to that, if that's okay with you. Go to the boys' night? Yeah? Well, I can get dressed and go with you, Nikki says. Oh man, that sounds great. Yeah, just let me finish showering and I'll go with you, Nikki says. Well, yeah, but I mean, it's just that Ian said it's like a boys' night, so I think I'm just gonna go. A loud smash comes from inside the bathroom and Nikki screams. Oh my god, are you okay? Bear yells through the door, concerned. Nikki collects herself and starts laughing. Yeah, that's so weird because Sarah was telling me that she's going. Bear is like, what the frick? Like, because Ian told him in the car that he was going to text Sarah not to come to the party so that it could truthfully be just a boys' night. But it looks like he lied and just didn't want Nikki to come. Scared of Nikki, Bear tells her that maybe she should come. But Nikki says like, no, she'll actually just stay home. He insists that she should come with him tonight, telling her what he knows she needs to hear in order to be calm. But Nikki just screams through the sobs, no, because if you wanted me to go, you would tell me to go. Shortly after, though, Bear is at Ian's party with Nikki, and it turns out that Ian did lie. Yeah, Sarah and a few other girls are there, so this isn't just like a boys' night like he said. Ian confronts Bear about bringing Nikki with him, but Bear defends his girlfriend and insists that Sarah was the one who invited her. The two walk over to the living room where their group of friends and a few other people we haven't met before are playing drunk Jenga. Bear sits next to Nikki, but after switching seats as part of one of the Jenga tasks, Bear ends up on the opposite side of the table next to Sarah. And at this point, it looks like maybe Nikki is normal Nikki today, but I will say her outfit is very different than what we've seen her wear in the past. She's now wearing like a black little mini skirt. She's wearing her thigh-high boots. She's wearing this like super cute top that's like, I think it's like a cheetah, like a leopard print, like some type of animal print. And it's like hot pink, red, and a little bit like revealing in the chest area. So she just looks really different. And I feel like she's trying to just dress to impress Bear. Nikki whines because she's not sitting next to Bear, and all their friends playfully ask Bear, like, what kind of spell did you put on her? Since she doesn't even want to sit away from him just for like a simple game. Everyone starts laughing about this because obviously they're joking, being like, wow, what spell did you put on her? Even though deep down we're like, we know what spell. And Nikki laughs to like blend in with the crowd, but she laughs way too hard and for way too long, getting everyone's attention. Everyone just kind of looks around the room awkwardly because why is she laughing so hard at this? Bear sinks into his chair because he's embarrassed by her behavior. It's Nikki's turn to pull a block, and though we don't see what her task is, she pulls out her phone and she starts to read out loud the most disturbing story about Hansel and Gretel. It says, quote, the air was charged by the distant call of a night bird. His face was obscured, but I knew he was looking at my chest, each side stretching, recently matured to different sizes. Nikki then uses her voice to embody the characters, and it's incredibly eerie. Hansel, come lie with me, like the old woman taught us when we were children, I said. He closed the door and leaned against it. You're not my wife, Gretel, he said. I am more than your wife. I'm your sister. Some of the friends listening to this chuckle because they think it's a joke, but Nikki is really impassioned by the words. Hansel flinched and reached for the door handle. I knew he would not leave this place. He would relent and choose to be inside me like he had many nights before. If not, I would have filleted his meaty forearm, rolled it like a stick of licorice, and inserted his flesh between my legs. The slight laughs from the group turn into complete discomfort. I mean, the story is so disturbing. Nikki then just sets her phone down, reciting the remainder from memory. Hansel is my soul, my cud. Brother, you will be inside me tonight. I went to him at the wall and reached for his sharp shoulders. His eyes were on the door, but his hands grabbed my hips. After finishing this really disturbing story, Nikki sits back down on the couch and goes back to acting completely normal. It's a new book I'm working on. I don't have to drink now, she says as she places the block on the table. The entire group is horrified by what just happened and they're so confused and it's so creepy, and I still don't get what her dare was on the block. It's like Wish Nikki has some really messed up idea of love, and this weird incestuous story is pulling from Nikki's real memories of having thought of Bear as just a brother, but now in a way is being forced to sleep with him. A lot of people who have watched this movie make this connection. Like, this Wish Nikki is sort of childish and strange and is experiencing life for the first time without a solid concept of what's acceptable. All she knows are these real intense feelings for Bear. And as she tries to be the whole person that Nikki was, it comes out really distorted through the lens of someone whose entire existence is just about Bear. The whole group is mortified, and finally, it's Bear's turn next. He reads his Jenga block out loud. Kiss the person to your left, which would be Sarah. Sarah looks back at him, but before anyone can say or do anything, Nikki jolts up from her seat with a huge frown on her face. Sarah and Bear just look at her confused, and Bear looks really worried about what she might do. I mean, she's kind of, you never know what she's gonna do. So Bear is freaking out that he's about to embarrass her even more, but she just walks over and stands behind Sarah's chair. She pauses there for a moment and then abruptly pulls her chair all the way back, leaving her room to kneel next to Bear and pucker her lips for a kiss. I mean, wish Nikki is not about to let Bear kiss Sarah all because of this stupid game. This scene was so cringy, but Bear complies and kisses her as she caresses his face. Then out loud, she confesses her love for him and yells out to the entire room that they will die without ever knowing the strength of the connection that she feels with Bear. The whole party goes silent because, like, what the heck is going on? Even the speaker goes out and everyone is extremely concerned and very worried about Nikki's behavior. Again, everyone knows Nikki as the calm, cool, and collected girl. Like, she's like your simple girl that you want to hang out with, you want to be around. But now everyone basically just wants her to leave the party. Nikki, are you okay? Ian asks, concerned. Nikki looks around the room smiling and says that she's just joking. The room eases a bit, but not so much, so Nikki just doubles down. Okay, fine, I'm not joking. Deal with it, she says. The room falls quiet again, and Ian suggests that they should go take some Jell-O shots, kind of to just ease the room and get the party back on. As Ian steps out to get the Jell-O shots, Nikki's eyes are still fully focused lovingly on Bear. She's literally like, Bear. But then in a split second, you see her expression transform instantly into pure horror. Real Nikki comes out and gasps in fear, falling back, screaming as she scrambles to the far corner of the living room. Oh my God, it's not me, it's not me, it's not me, she yells out as she smashes a beer bottle on the coffee table and stabs it into her own face. The entire room is screaming while Bear just sits there, mouth wide open, paralyzed with fear. But mid-smash, Wish Nikki regains control of the body. She rolls her eyes and playfully says, oh my God, I am so sorry, as if to say she's just joking when she just stabbed herself in the face with a glass bottle. Everyone in the room is nonstop screaming. Ian tells Bear to take her to the hospital, but Bear is frozen in place. Ian continues calling out to Bear saying, are you freaking listening to me, Bear? Get up, asshole. Everyone is worried about Nikki, but Bear's just sitting there doing nothing, like this guy's useless. Finally, Bear gets up and drives Nikki in silence to the emergency room. Her face is still bleeding, but she just like nuzzles into his neck as if nothing is wrong. They pull up to the hospital, but the nurse receiving them can't do anything because Nikki is refusing to go inside. So they just go home, and Bear is absolutely defeated at this point and traumatized. This is the first time that Nikki has been violent, and Bear doesn't know how to stop it. Well, I mean, he does know, but that would mean killing himself, and I don't think Bear is willing to do that. The two sit down at the kitchen table in silence because, I mean, what can you really say at this point? Bear gets up to go to the bathroom, and Nikki scrambles to grab his hand. Where are you going? She says. I'm just going to the bathroom, Nikki. Okay? Well, can I stand outside and wait? Nikki asks innocently. Bear, absolutely worn out, whispers to her, Why did you do this, Nikki? Why did you act like that tonight? Nikki just says that Sarah was playing dirty because, I mean, they were supposed to kiss in the game, but Bear tells her that she scared everyone and that she hurt herself and that she cut her face. But Nikki just says that it's because she was really nervous and she knows that Sarah likes him. Bear, in his exasperation, just snaps at her. God, everything was just so normal, he says. Everything was good. I mean, you were so... Look, I'm sorry. Look, you are beautiful and you are normal, but this isn't okay, Nikki. Do you like me? He says. What? Bear, I love you. No, Bear clarifies. He asks, do you like me, like at all? Is Nikki happy? Does Nikki like me? Yeah. Nikki reassures him with a smile, looking completely lifeless and creepy as she tells him, I'm your freaky Nikki. No, Bear freaks out and he turns back toward the bathroom, but Nikki gets upset, asking if he can at least tell her that he loves her before he goes to the bathroom. Bear turns back to face her from the doorway and finally admits to himself that this is not okay. He's always dreamed of this, but this is not what Nikki wanted. I mean, he wants this to work so badly, but it just can't. I mean, his dream has always been to be in love with Nikki, have her love him back, and be boyfriend and girlfriend and move in together and live happily ever after, but Clearly, that's not where this is going. Nikki insists that this can work out, but Bear tells her that she has to go home for at least one night, that they just need some space. But this breaks Wish Nikki's heart and she starts to wail. No, I don't want space, she says. Bear raises his voice telling her that they need space, that it's normal to have space, but Nikki is begging him to just tell her what she can do because she doesn't want to leave. Just be normal, he shouts. I can be normal, Nikki screams. God, I want you to be Nikki, Bear tells her. I can be Nikki, she pleads, dropping to her knees, telling him she can be Nikki, that she'll be anything he wants. But he gets down to his knees and tells her no, that real Nikki would never say that. He just wants her to act like Nikki, the real Nikki. And this is heartbreaking because Bear knows that Wish Nikki and real Nikki are in pain and that he's hurting her by telling her this. It's just awful to watch him understand that this isn't Nikki, that this is like a possession taking advantage of her body, but yet he still wants to somehow make this work. He wants her to just pretend and basically convince him that it's the real Nikki. Do you get what I'm saying? It's so twisted because he knows that the only way to stop this would be for him to end his own life and to end Nikki's suffering and just put this chaos to rest. But obviously he doesn't want to do that, so he's just trying to convince Wish Nikki to act like real Nikki and just pretend that everything's okay when clearly nothing's okay. I'm also questioning, like, sir, how are you barely realizing that this is a bad situation? Since their dinner at the Italian restaurant, Bear has 100% known for sure that none of this is real and that some entity has taken over Nikki's body and that she doesn't actually love him. It's just sick, like how he keeps trying to make this work. You're not being like Nikki, he tells her, frustrated, overwhelmed, and panicked. Wish Nikki screams in his face like, I can be Nikki! And you can see it in Bear's face that he has just given up and that he's completely heartbroken over the reality of the situation. Wish Nikki can see it in his expression and she apologizes for screaming, her voice trembling as she quietly assures him that she can be Nikki, and that she's sorry and that she loves him. Bear tells her, it's not real. Bear, I love you in every reality, she says. Bear stares back at her. He can see that even if this isn't real Nikki, Wish Nikki just wants to love him. And after a moment, he tells her, I love you too. Immediately, Nikki gets up and her body literally starts walking backwards towards the kitchen and her facial expressions malfunction. It's like the creepiest, craziest thing I've seen in a movie in a minute. And I'm telling you, Inde killed this role. Like, she's amazing. Like when she started walking backwards and like moving all weird, it was like her body was glitching. And of course, Bear looking at this is completely freaked out. What the heck, Nikki? Just stop. Nikki, please stop. You're scaring me. Nikki adjusts her posture, now standing in the dark hallway between the living room and the kitchen. Don't be scared, baby. Don't be scared. I would never hurt you, she says, but then she lunges at him as if to scare him, as if to test whether he believes that she would never hurt him. Why don't you take the bed tonight for yourself and I'll go sleep at Ian's and I'll come right back in the morning, okay? Bear suggests. Okay. Nikki casually responds as she walks into the kitchen and smashes something in there. Who knows what? She then starts rummaging through all the drawers as Bear calls over to her, still on the floor, voice trembling and scared. Nikki, what are you doing? She walks back into the living room where Bear is, and she tells him that she could sleep alone tonight, but goes on to explain how awful and horrible she'll feel the longer that she's away from him, that she'll turn cold and go numb, that he's still in her heart, but he's slipping and she'll just cease to exist without him. It's almost as if she's threatening to end herself if she is forced to be away from him. Or you could stay, she says, switching her tone back to more calm and casual. She goes into the bedroom and settles in for the night, leaving Bear alone in the living room, just completely terrified. Bear decides to spend the night with Nikki, but he's not really sleeping. He's just lying awake in bed, staring up at the ceiling, just thinking like, how am I going to do this for the rest of my life? His phone rings on the nightstand and he reaches over and gets a message from Sarah, asking how they're doing after the incident at Ian's party. Bear texts her back saying that they worked it out, and Sarah asks if they can go meet at the park because she has something urgent that she needs to tell him. Bear says that he cannot meet her at the park in the middle of the night, but Sarah says if he doesn't come to her, then she'll go to him. Obviously, Bear knows that Nikki would hate that. If Sarah showed up at their door right now, who knows what the heck would happen? And honestly, Bear could use a break from Nikki, so he agrees. He anxiously slips out of bed and tiptoes to the door. Just when he thinks that he has finally slipped away unnoticed, Nikki whispers to him, Bear? I'm getting water. He answers scared. Kill me, please. Kill me. Wait, what? Bear asks, shocked by what she's saying. She's sleeping. It's me. It's the real me, Nikki says. You are you, Nikki. Shh, please don't wake her up. Just kill me, real Nikki says. And what would be so bad? What's so bad about being with me? Bear asks, which I'm like, ew. I've never been with you, Bear. Just kill me, please, she says as he walks off, crying. The real Nikki just whispers, please, 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 over and over again. And this scene was so horrifying because real Nikki is begging him to end her pain. And instead of focusing on that, he focuses on his own feelings. He's just like, oh, like, what's so bad about being with me? And she's like, bro, I've never been with you because real Nikki has truly never been with Bear. This like loser just doesn't want to accept the reality of the situation, that he's actually never been intimate or even kissed the real Nikki, and that he's torturing her. The fact that real Nikki is able to take over Wish Nikki's body while she's sleeping, and the one thing she says to Bear is kill me, just shows how much pain she truly is in. Bear just completely ignores this and he heads over to the park and gets inside Sarah's car. So what the F is going on with Nikki? Sarah asks. And Bear, dead set on making the situation work, this demented situation, tells her that what Nikki is going through is really private, but that her dad is dying of cancer. So she's just going through a difficult time. Wait, but isn't she like not close to her dad? No, they're close. I mean, they're close now. So it's painful, you know? But I thought she hated her dad, Sarah says. No, she doesn't, Bear says, still trying to use this as a lie, as an excuse. Sarah says that she does feel bad for Nikki. You know, obviously she is in need of help based on the behavior that she showed tonight. But she also thinks that Nikki is taking advantage of Bear. I don't think it's right that she's leaning on you, especially since I don't mind being there for her. Bear interrupts before Sarah can finish her sentence. Sarah wraps up the conversation by saying that Nikki is the one taking advantage of Bear, but we know that it's the other way around. I mean, even Ian has called Bear out for taking advantage of Nikki while she's in this vulnerable space. Yet Sarah thinks that Bear is the one being taken advantage of and that Nikki is the bad one. She switches topics and she pulls out her last art school letter, and the two exchange jokes about it. Excited about it and hopeful that this is the acceptance she needs to take the next step in life. Before opening it though, Sarah confesses that she needs to tell Bear something important. What is it? Bear asks. Sarah tells him that she promised she would never say anything about this, especially to Ian, but it turns out that Ian and Nikki have been hooking up on and off for the past 2 years. That, quote, their relationship is casual and not romantic, but Ian thinks Nikki is only suddenly dating Bear to get back at him. Regardless, Sarah tells him that she doesn't think that they should be together because he needs someone more chill and not as erratic as Nikki. What, I need someone like you? Bear asks in kind of a flirty tone. Sarah smiles, reminding him that she was to his left in the game after all, telling Bear that he was supposed to kiss her. Now, this reveal is insane. The fact that Ian and Nikki have been secretly hooking up for the past 2 years is insane. And the way that Bear never caught on to this is so just like disturbing. It's like, how did he not know that his best friend Ian was hooking up with like the girl he's in love with? On top of that, why was Ian trying to help Bear like practice his speech at the diner? Like, why was he trying to help Bear confess his love to Nikki when he knew deep down that he was sleeping with her for the past 2 years and that obviously Nikki didn't like him back? It's just all so mind-blowing, and Bear is just shocked by this revelation. He looks down nervously at his lap because, Sarah has finally gathered the courage that he never had with Nikki, and Sarah finally told him how she really feels about him. It seems like a very sweet and romantic moment between them. You know, maybe Bear realizes like, wow, I was wrong. Like, Nikki wasn't the girl for me. It's been Sarah all along. This sweet moment is interrupted when suddenly a figure runs up to Sarah's window, smashing through it with a brick. And of course, it's Nikki. She found them. I have no idea how far this park is from Bear's house or how she knew that they were going to be there. She found them. She slams the brick onto the steering wheel, grabs the back of Sarah's head, and repeatedly smashes her face into it, killing her. Sarah's face is completely disfigured, and after brutally murdering her, Nikki just lets go of the brick and drops it onto Sarah's lap. Each smash honks the horn, shakes the car, and again, in the face of Wish Nikki's violence, Bear just sits there completely paralyzed in fear. Nikki gasps, catching her breath. Oh, I'm so sorry you had to see that, baby, but it's kind of your fault. Just remember, you wanted this, but I'm so happy that you did. Oh, I'm so happy that you did, baby. Oh, no. Don't cry. No, honey, breathe. It's okay. It's okay. Nikki tells him as she goes to comfort him, and Bear is just like, what the f-? Like, he's literally covered in Sarah's blood. Nikki tells him like, hey, we gotta go hide the body and you have to help me. And Bear is shaking as he tells her no. But she says, yes, that he has to help, not this is all his fault. She's not shaming him. I mean, she's just being 100% direct with Bear because, yeah, this is his fault. Sarah's death is his fault. He wanted this. He wished for this. So now he has to deal with the consequences. Wish Nikki is crazy, but again, in a very real sense, it is his fault, so they need to fix this together. They carry Sarah's body off in Bear's car, and they go to the music shop where they work, and it's not clear what they do there with Sarah's body or why they go to the music shop. Like, why are they going to get rid of her body there at the music shop that her dad owns? All we see is Bear sitting down at a table in the break room while Nikki is in the back of the store doing who knows what with Sarah's body. She's ready, baby. Why don't you go home? I'll take it from here, Nikki suggests. Bear agrees. Bear sits in his parked car as dawn breaks. He holds Sarah's bloody acceptance letter in his hand and reads that she was accepted into art school. This was Sarah's dream school, and this was the letter that she had been hoping for, and she was so excited to open it with Bear, her best friend and her crush. But she never got the chance to open this letter or even start her future since it was cut short by Nikki, and of course by Bear, because this is his fault. As I have mentioned, I have no idea what they were doing inside that music store with Sarah's body, but in my mind, I'm thinking like, how on earth are they going to explain Sarah's disappearance / death to her dad? He's literally their boss. They work at his music store. I really don't know how they were going to go back to like normal after this, even if they did hide her body well. Like, there's no way Bear would be able to keep the secret for that long. It's honestly just all too much to think about, especially for Bear. So after a few breaths, he lets out a blood-curdling scream, sobbing in despair over how far things have escalated. Now mourning, covered in blood, Bear rushes into the crystal shop where he bought the One Wish Willow, causing a commotion and drawing every eye to him because he looks insane. He literally walks up to the male clerk covered in blood, asking about the One Wish Willows. But the male clerk asks, like, what is a One Wish Willow? Bear starts to think he's crazy, like he made up the entire thing, that he made up this wish and this like branch in his mind, that none of this even happened. He starts freaking out, but the clerk is like, nah, I'm just messing with you. They're right here. We sell them right there. And there are only 2 left. So you made a crappy wish and now you want to reverse it? The clerk asks. Did you call the number in the back? He adds, but this just sets Bear off. He scolds the clerk for selling this in the first place because they're dangerous, but the clerk defends himself and says that the box is full of warnings. Bear tells him to just like F off, and he turns to face a mirror behind the clerk, and this is when Bear gets to see his own reflection. And it's not good. He looks crazy. He's screaming at this innocent man. He's covered in blood. Like, it's insane. I'm sorry, he says, starting to cry, looking down at his hands that are, again, covered in blood. Oh God, what did you do? The clerk asks. I don't know. She's obsessed with me, Bear says. The clerk relaxes. Oh, well, that's not too bad, he says. But Bear tells him that he needs to reverse it because something bad did happen. No. The clerk tells him that's not how this works. He suggests that he try asking someone else to make a wish that contradicts his own wish, or the other option is he could just kill himself. I mean, it's so silly. The clerk is acting so nonchalant about this, and it's freaky in its own way, but it's true. Like, the only way to stop this wish is by killing himself or asking someone else to contradict it, which is like, how would you even do that? Bear ultimately buys 2 One Wish Willows, and in his car, he tries to break one, wishing Nikki only loved him as a friend, but it won't snap. I mean, you only get 1 wish. I mean, its magic makes it indestructible. So it's not going to work on Bear. Bear finally accepts that it won't work. And that's when he drives over to Ian's house. Ian opens the front door and he is not in a good mood. I texted you 50 times. Jesus Christ, Bear, he says, seeing him looking crazy, covered in blood. Confused and worried, Ian talks over Bear's attempts to explain what's been going on, the truth. Ian asks why Sarah's been texting him over and over again, telling him to go over to Bear's house. Bear's like, wait, what? Sarah's texting you? I mean, he knows Sarah cannot be texting because she's dead. And that's when Bear realizes that Nikki has been using Sarah's phone since he left her alone with the body, and that she's been pretending to be Sarah to lure Ian to his own house. But why? What does he want with Ian? Does Nikki want to kill Ian too and just kill off any distractions in Bear's life? Regardless of the reason, Bear tells Ian to not come over and to just stay there at his own house. He then runs out of Ian's house, but Ian shouts and tells him to come back and says that he needs to explain to him what the heck is going on right now. Overwhelmed, Bear steps back inside the house. He closes the door and finally confesses to everything. How Nikki has been obsessed with him and acting weird because he made a wish by snapping this piece of wood, not thinking that it was real. But it was. He tells Ian that he can make a wish too, that it's real and that it will work, and he needs him to make a wish to reverse everything. Ian is completely over Bear right now. He's like, what are you even saying? Like, he's not making any sense. And he straight up asks Bear, okay, what? Did you take her to a psychic? I mean, what program did you take Nikki to? Exasperated, Bear insists that no, he didn't take her to a psychic, that this is real magic. And Ian gets angry, yelling back, is this a joke to you? Like, Ian is genuinely concerned about Nikki. I mean, and we know why. Like, they have been sleeping together and being intimate together for the past 2 years. So even if they do think that this like hookup is just casual, it's clear that Ian genuinely cares for Nikki and is really worried about her safety. Especially now that Bear just showed up at his house covered in blood and freaking out. Like, Ian is worried that Bear did something to Nikki and that he's using this one wish willow BS as an excuse. Bear insists that it's real, so Ian grabs a one wish willow, mocking Bear, pretending that he's going to play ball with it. No, just make a wish. Just make a wish saying that you wish I never made my wish and then you can be with Nikki, Bear pleads. Wow, so this is what it's about, Ian laughs. I swear I was going to tell you about us, he adds. But Bear's like, I don't give a crap about you hooking up with Nikki. Just make the wish. Ian pulls the branch out of the box and the little melody starts to play. He gets ready to snap it and Bear slows him down, telling him, okay, I need you to say, I wish my friend Baron. But before he can finish his sentence, Ian interrupts him and says, I wish for $1 billion, as he snaps the branch in half. Instantaneously, money starts raining down on the two of them. Yeah, money starts raining down from the ceiling. From every corner of the house, money is falling down, and it's actually comical how this happens. But of course, Bear doesn't laugh. He screams out of frustration because Ian just wasted a wish. Like, what are they supposed to do now? He just wasted his chance at ending this torture, and now he only has one box left. Ian is just in shock as he realizes that Bear was telling the truth. But more than pitying Bear, he's actually low-key excited about the money. I mean, of course, he has no idea that Sarah is dead and that Nikki's body has been taken over by this dangerous entity that brutally murdered Sarah. Bear runs back home, stepping into the house, yelling out, Nikki, I need you to do something for me. At this point, the house is an absolute mess. Honestly, like, it's chaotic. And in the middle of the living room coffee table, Nikki has built this like creepy shrine to Bear. He takes it in for a moment, looking at the shrine that Nikki built, and it's so freaking creepy. And he's just like, yeah, like, this is done. Nikki, you'll do anything for me, right? He shouts as he continues to look for Nikki. He has no idea, though, that Nikki is standing in the corner right behind him, hiding in the shadows. He pulls out the one wish willow that he has left, the only one left, and he looks over to the dining room. And that's when he spots Sarah's naked body and beaten body seated on a chair. Nikki was supposed to get rid of her body and get rid of the evidence, but she didn't do that. She brought Sarah's body back to Bear's home and just laid her out there for who knows what reason. I'll do anything for you, baby, Nikki says from behind. Bear slowly turns around to face her and he's like, what the is going on? Do you like me better now? Nikki says as she is literally shivering and malfunctioning like a robot. She looks completely different at this point. She's smoking a cigarette. She's wearing Sarah's hairstyle. She's wearing her clothes. She even has tattoos drawn on her body that mimic Sarah's tattoos. She has completely taken over Sarah's appearance because that's what she thinks Bear likes. Her job is to love Bear more than anything in the world. But if Bear's attention is on Sarah, then that's a problem. And in her mind, she needs to get Sarah out of the picture and basically transform into her so that Bear will love her back. I need you to do something for me, Bear says as he takes in her new appearance. Why don't you love me? Nikki cries before smashing a brick into her own face, as if the real Nikki is taking a turn at the wheel trying to kill herself. But then Wish Nikki takes hold again and quickly walking crookedly towards Bear, telling him that she just wants to eat him up in a cute way. Meanwhile, Ian shows up at the house and starts banging on the door, begging Bear to open up because he believes him now since all of this money just came falling down from the ceiling and it's real money. Inside though, Wish Nikki approaches Bear, desperate for him and for his approval, but then stops in her tracks screaming, "Stop, stop!" I mean, clearly real Nikki is trying to take back control, but Wish Nikki keeps going towards him, crying and begging for him. But then real Nikki like holds her and is like, "Stop moving, stop moving." It's crazy. It's difficult to explain. You guys just have to watch this scene in person and watch it for yourself because it was such a brilliant scene. It was just pure chaos at this point. Like, I was so scared of what was going to happen next. And the way that Nikki was acting at this point was so eerie, you guys. Like, I don't know. It was just really cool. Ian suddenly manages to get inside the house and Wish Nikki is furious at Bear for all the pain that he has caused her by making her jealous of Sarah and for making her feel that he doesn't love her back. So she pulls out a gun that she stole from the music store. Remember, Sarah's dad kept a gun in the safe, so she must have taken this gun when she was trying to hide Sarah's body. She puts the gun to her chin and threatens to shoot herself right in front of Bear's face. Ian tells Nikki to stop and put the gun down, so she turns over to him and shoots him in the head. Yeah, Ian is dead. Turning back to Bear, she tells him that she'll kill herself, but Bear insists, "I love you, I love you, I love you." "Scream it," she demands. "I love you," he screams. Relieved, Wish Nikki falls into his arms and says, "I knew you did. Oh gosh, you owe me that. Sorry for the theatrics. I don't know why I do that." Determined to make this work and to calm Nikki down, Bear just goes along with it and says that it's okay, that he loves her and that everything will be fine. He takes the gun from her and is again telling her whatever she needs to hear. Nikki continues to cuddle into his chest and she says that they're going to be together forever and ever. And this is what causes Bear to freeze. The idea of dealing with this for the rest of his life is absolutely horrifying, so he doesn't say anything back. Nikki can feel him tense up, so she turns to look up at him and she's like, "You shook your head. Why did you shake your head?" she asks. Bear insists that he just thinks that they should shower because they're a little dirty. But after heading to the bathroom to lock the door behind him, this sends Nikki into a fit and she starts banging relentlessly on the bathroom door, screaming at him, cursing him out, saying, "Let me in, let me in." Bear's like, "Please just give me 1 second." And he begs for a second over and over until Nikki sweetly complies. "Okay, thank you," she says. Bear is losing his mind at this point and he pulls out the tiger's eye gemstone that Nikki gave him on their date. He uses this to work up the courage to shoot himself. This is the only way that this nightmare will come to an end. At this point, 2 very important people in his life have died because of him, because of this wish. So he just needs to end it once and for all. But he hesitates, trying to feel out the different spots that he can shoot himself in. He debates doing it through his mouth, through his chest, but he's scared. Nikki, on the other hand, has completely flipped a switch. She is outside the door telling him that everything is going to be okay and that they should probably take some space. That if he needs space, they can take it. She insists they can take the space. She even suggests that they should break up, which, what? Is this a trap so that Nikki can figure out if Bear is being honest about his love for her? You know, is she testing him to see if he says, "Okay, yeah, let's take a break," and then she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you, you don't love me," or does she genuinely mean it? Unfazed by her comments, Bear finally finds a less scary alternative to death, which is taking the prescription pills that his grandma left in the medicine cabinet. He takes a bottle, sits down on the edge of the tub, and swallows the entire bottle. He sits there trembling, but a minute in, he panics, reaching for the trash bin with one hand, shoving his fingers into his mouth with the other, trying to throw up all the pills. But as he's doing this, the One Wish Willow melody plays in the living room, and within seconds, we hear a snap. And Bear's posture straightens. He drops the trash can and walks out to meet Wish Nikki in the living room, looking at her, smiling, shaking his head lovingly. Wish Nikki looks back at him, and they're looking at each other with true love. He walks towards her and they kiss passionately. We then get a view of the coffee table and we see that the last One Wish Willow has been used by Nikki. She snapped the branch in half and wished that Bear loved her more than anything in the world, which is why Bear suddenly jolted up from the bathtub and walked over to Nikki all lovey-dovey when 2 seconds earlier he was panicking and trying to throw up all the pills. So now, they both love each other more than anything in the world, but this doesn't last long. As they're hugging, Wish Bear falls to his knees. Wish Nikki starts to scream, calling out to him, asking him what he did as she picks him up and lays him across her lap, his mouth foaming due to the prescription pills that he took before her wish, killing him. Wish Nikki wails, screaming out for him, saying that her true love is dying in her arms. She reaches into his pocket, finds the gun that he took from her, and places it in her mouth, ready to pull the trigger. Without Bear, Wish Nikki has no purpose in this life. So just as she's about to pull the trigger, real Nikki suddenly regains control of her body and mind. Her face fills with the realization that Wish Nikki is finally gone. She looks around to see that Bear is dead on her lap and that she's covered in blood, wearing Sarah's clothes. Ian is shot dead in the doorway. Sarah's beaten, unclothed body is laid right there in the kitchen. Like, the scene around her is pure chaos. So real Nikki just sobs at the scene in front of her, likely knowing what she did, crying, losing her mind. She pushes Bear's body off of her lap and she just sits there crying and crying. In the end, everyone is dead except Nikki. Bear is dead, Ian is dead, Sarah is dead, and the real Nikki, the girl who was actually there the entire time, the one who begged Bear to just kill her while Wish Nikki slept, she's the one left sitting in the wreckage of a life that she never asked for. A random little toy from a witchy shop ends up being the most destructive thing in this entire movie. And honestly, despite the power of the One Wish Willow, it just felt like Bear chose wrong and wrong time after time. He knew what was going on and he only tried to fix it after Sarah was killed. It did feel like for the most part, he was happy to kind of work out the kinks and make Wish Nikki work in his favor because that's how desperate he was to keep Nikki in his life. Honestly, Bear is like one of the true villains in this movie, and even at the end when he took all the pills and was finally going to end his life and end Nikki's torture, he chickened out and was about to throw up the pills until he himself became possessed by the One Wish Willow from Nikki. If he did manage to throw up the pills and if Wish Nikki never snapped this branch, I do wonder what his game plan was going to be. Like, was he going to hide Ian's body, hide Sarah's body, hide the mess, hide the blood, hide the crime scene, hide everything, and then continue to try to just make this relationship with Wish Nikki work? Was he going to try to find someone else to make the wish to contradict his wish? How on earth was he going to go on living like this when so much was destroyed? Now, we'll get back to some of my questions that I have on the movie, but overall, you guys, I really enjoyed Obsession and I give it like a solid 9 out of 10. It's got that perfect mix of like cringe comedy in the first act, and then it just completely spirals into this genuinely upsetting nightmare by the end. And I think that's what makes this movie really work so well, because you're laughing at one point about Ian's terrible flirting advice, you're laughing at how awkward Bear is, and you're also just like horrified to see how awkward he is. But then you're also like really horrified watching Nikki cave Sarah's skull in with the brick the next moment. This movie just makes you feel so many different emotions, and ultimately sadness is what I felt the most. I felt sad for Wish Nikki and for real Nikki because they were both stuck in a life, in a mindset that they didn't want in the first place. All right, so let's go over some of my questions and my theories that I have because I feel like there are many and I'm curious to hear your thoughts as well. Okay, so I question Bear's real intentions. Was Bear ever going to be able to actually live with this, even if none of this happened? Like, if Ian had made a different wish, would Bear actually have let go of the real Nikki, or was some part of him always going to want the version of her that actually loved him unconditionally? Like, I feel like that's like the real horror of this movie, honestly, because, more than the possession stuff, Bear had to some degree the chance to end this and to end the torture, but he kept choosing himself. So I do wonder, like, if Ian had made the wish and was like, okay, I wish to contradict Bear's wish, and everything went back to normal and Nikki never loved Bear anymore and like whatever, it was back to normal. I'm like, would Bear still continue to try to pursue Nikki after this in a more like organic, natural way without the wish? Or was he gonna be like crazy and be like, wait, I actually miss Wish Nikki and like wish things were still the same? Part of me just feels like this guy is so crazy and so obsessed with like Nikki that I feel like he probably would have regretted canceling the wish. Also, after the aftermath, I do wonder what happens to Carter, to the store, to Sarah's family, to Ian's family, to Nikki's family. Like, I wonder what happens when everyone in the town finds out what actually happened in that house. Like, does Nikki go to jail? Is she able to explain to police what happened? Does she just escape and like go on the run? Like, I need a follow-up on what happens to Nikki. And finally, does the clerk at the crystal shop know exactly what he sold to Bear, or is he just as in the dark as everyone else, restocking those shelves for the next guy who wanders in with a broken heart and bad judgment? So I do wonder, like, is the crystal shop in on this? Who runs the customer service department at the One Wish Willow? How did they have access to like the real Nikki screaming and asking for help? Like, I need more clarification on that. Lastly, but most importantly, my question is, did real Nikki even like Bear to begin with? I mean, she told Sarah that she only saw him as a brother, but I don't know. I did think that there was something there. There was a little bit of chemistry at the beginning of the movie, but I could also see how she only viewed him as like a close friend and that the flirting that we saw or the chemistry that we saw was nothing. Regardless, the way that Bear ignored her begs and pretended that he didn't know she was basically possessed must have been really frustrating and, of course, heartbreaking for real Nikki, because this guy is supposed to be her friend. Yet he's just letting her suffer for his own benefits. Another question that I have is about Ian and Nikki secretly hooking up for the past 2 years. Yet again, Ian was helping Bear proclaim his love for Nikki. Like, what in the world is up with that? Like, why wasn't Ian honest about this relationship with Bear? Why was he helping him connect with Nikki even though he was sleeping with her and hooking up with her and clearly had some type of relationship with her? It is just so odd and I don't get it. I really don't think anyone in this friend group is that good of a person besides Nikki. Obviously, Bear sucks. Ian is a jerk and he's two-faced. Sarah meets up with her friend's boyfriend in the middle of the night to flirt with him and talk about how they should have kissed during a party and doesn't even question how her best friend is acting super weird and literally slammed a glass bottle into her face. Like, she's more worried about Bear being taken advantage of by Nikki than by her friend showing that she has some violent behavior going on and that something is clearly wrong with her. Everyone is just so weird and suspicious. I don't know. This friend group is odd. Now, I love watching behind the scenes clips and hearing how the director and the cast, made this experience happen and hearing their thoughts on filming the movie. So I'm going to leave a link to a video down below that's about 10 minutes long. And it's just like a compilation of a bunch of behind the scenes clips of how they filmed Ian's death, Sarah's death, the scenes where Nikki pees herself because she was waiting for Bear to come home. Like, it's just really cool seeing the director watch them act out these scenes and adding corrections or feedback and just seeing the actors take it all in and just want to genuinely perfect their performances. Everyone put in so much hard work for this movie and I'm just so happy that it's doing incredibly well and that this movie has received such high reviews because they deserve it. For Sarah's death scene, they filmed it inside a studio and they just put these like screens around the car that mimicked a parking lot, so they didn't actually film it outside, which I thought was really interesting. At one point while they were filming this scene, they accidentally locked the car that Sarah and Bear are in when she dies, and no one on set had the keys for it. So like the crew was trying to like break into the car so that they could resume filming, and everyone was laughing, asking like, oh my gosh, who has like a AAA account, like so that they could unlock the car. I thought that was really funny just watching the behind the scenes and just seeing like everyone in the crew just looked so cool and chill, and it's just, I don't know, it must be so cool to see that all the hard work that you put into creating this movie has paid off. Now, let's talk about Inde and Michael, who played Nikki and Bear, because, like I said, they sold this movie. Their acting and their chemistry was so fun to watch, and when they did their chemistry test, they acted out the scene that takes place after Ian's party, where Nikki stabs herself in the face with the glass bottle. In an interview, Michael said that Inde walked into the, audition room. They shook hands because they were meeting for the first time and they jumped straight into acting out that scene. The director, Curry, said that they did not have any romantic chemistry whatsoever, so that's why they were perfect for this role. And Michael says, we just met, we acted out this scene, and we were touching each other and spitting in each other's faces, but that's how passionate we were about this role, and I just think that the casting was perfect. Inde hasn't really done that many movies, at least that I'm aware of. I feel like this is honestly her big breakout role, and I'm just so happy that she's been getting her flowers, and I'm really excited to see her career continue to grow, as well as Michael's. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think of the movie. Did you guys like Obsession? What was your favorite scene? And do you think that Bear deserved any sympathy by the end, or did he honestly dig his own grave the second he made that wish? I would love to hear your theories, and as always, thank you all so much for being here and for taking the time to listen to this incredibly long video. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps out the video and this channel, and if you guys want to hear more from me, you can click the subscribe button down below. I've covered so many insane movies with plot twists and whodunits. I'm obsessed with movies. I recently discussed this super fun and campy horror comedy called Totally Killer. This is a movie about a teenage girl who has to go back in time to stop her mom's future murder. It's a wild movie and the killer reveal was so good. So make sure to go check that out and let me know what you guys would like me to cover next. I appreciate you all so much. I'm gonna go rest up now because this was a long video. But again, thank you so much for being here and I will see you all in the next one. Bye everyone.